They ranked second after Sonics, only 2 points gap with third place E-United. E-United showed off their potential in the last match by pulling off a 2v3 clutch. With this member, they can do anything. The competition for the cut line was just as fierce as the competition for the top group. Yahoo, who has the Brazilian superstar Sparking, Dodge, who strengthened their roster by recruiting Corsock, and Tokyo Manjigang, who moved from Europe to North America, competed for the 6th place, and at the end, Dodge and Tokyo Manjigang won the tickets. The competition among South American teams was also on fire. Fiumba, 22 Esports, and 4 poor men with Brazilian youngsters have qualified as a top point getters. Team X of Colombia and Synergy Esports with the living legend of Argentina, Siljan, put their name on the PCS7 America list along with Trogloditos in a point tie. Fiumba is consisted of the old KPI Gaming members. Siljan has left to Synergy Esports. This team is still very strong. With young bloods from Argentina, they've ranked first in South America regional playoff. As we've seen how well Brazilian rookie players performed in PNC 2022, let's keep an eye on Haven from 22 Esports and LFP VHC from 4 Poor Men, a team with interesting name, and see how they perform in their next global tournaments. Bing Bang Boom, Peak FA, the Rumblers, Eoscuri made it through the last chance qualifier. Bing Bang Boom heading to last chance qualifier was not expected, but they were able to make it to PCS7 Americas thanks to Keenan's performance, recording the most kills and most assists. The strength of the Brazilian teams was also outstanding this time. No Brazilian team have passed the last chance qualifier in PCS6, but this time, Pick FA and Eoscuri outperformed among prominent teams to qualify, and we should look forward to seeing if they can show their skills in the global competition. Let's check out PGC points for Americas. Sonics, who accumulated 725 points, and E-United, with 680 points, have indeed locked up their spot for PGC 2022. This means 4 seats left for Americas region. Which teams will be taking the spots in PCS7 Americas? PCS7 will be held in 4 regions around the world, starting with APAC and America on upcoming September 16th. And then Asia and Europe will kick off on September 30th. As this is the last chance to get the tickets for PGC 2022, please stay tuned to check out the result. We'll be back next time with news about Asia and Europe region. See you then. Bye!
Some updates to Destin, a new vehicle, and special new skins. All this and more as we dive into the Update 19.2 patch report. First up, Destin is getting some additional cover in several areas, as well as more cell towers, ascenders, and fuel pumps. You'll also now notice the passage of time and even shifting weather patterns in your Destin games. If your match is going long and you're starting to feel hangry, look out for the newest Battlegrounds vehicle, the food truck. This sturdy vehicle holds a driver and passenger, while up to 2 others serve up hot food and even hotter lead in the back. There's also new heavy stock in the game to try out on your favorite stock-slotted weapon. You may remember us talking about an animation refresh some time back. This update, you'll start to see the fruits of those efforts with new animations for all weapon operations and player motions. Check them out and let us know what you think. For those looking to really pimp their ride, we've added new special vehicle skins to the game. Our first set will turn your run-of-the-mill Coupe RB into a sleek and sexy McLaren GT. Customize paint, rims, and even your brakes. These customizations can be crafted in the workshop or by collecting rewards from the new McLaren Crafters Pass. But before you go betting your pink slip, while it may look like a McLaren, it still performs like a regular old coupe. There's quite a bit more to learn about these updates and more, so check out the patch notes for full details. Update 19.2 is here, so drop in, wax up that new McLaren, and serve up some chicken dinner, extra bullets. We'll see you on the battlegrounds.
on the roof. Heading back down.
Roger. Hurry up. We need to move.
Just make sure I don't take a bullet in the back.
Looking good. Keep it steady.
I hear footsteps. I got a bad feeling.
Enemy spotted. Move! Move!
You're going up next time.
There won't be a next time.
One question, so is there on
outside, inside, we don't stop. Global, worldwide, we don't stop. From the bottom to the top, we don't stop. From the birds to the block, we don't stop. Outside, inside, we don't stop. Global, worldwide, we don't stop. From the bottom to the top, we don't stop. From the birds to the block, we don't stop. Outside, inside, we don't stop. Global, worldwide, we don't stop. From the bottom to the top, we don't stop. From the birds to the block, we don't stop. Outside, inside, we don't stop. Global, worldwide, we don't stop. From the birds to the block, we don't stop.
one question, so is there on
outside, inside, we don't stop. Global, worldwide, we don't stop. From the bottom to the top, we don't stop. From the birds to the block, we don't stop. Outside, inside, we don't stop. Global, worldwide, we don't stop. From the bottom to the top, we don't stop. From the birds to the block, we don't stop. Outside, inside, we don't stop. Global, worldwide, we don't stop. From the bottom to the top, we don't stop. From the birds to the block, we don't stop. Outside, inside, we don't stop. Global, worldwide, we don't stop. From the birds to the block, we don't stop.
Some updates to Destin, a new vehicle, and special new skins. All this and more as we dive into the Update 19.2 patch report. First up, Destin is getting some additional cover in several areas, as well as more cell towers, ascenders, and fuel pumps. You'll also now notice the passage of time and even shifting weather patterns in your Destin games. If your match is going long and you're starting to feel hangry, look out for the newest Battlegrounds vehicle, the food truck. This sturdy vehicle holds a driver and passenger, while up to 2 others serve up hot food and even hotter lead in the back. There's also new heavy stock in the game to try out on your favorite stock-slotted weapon. You may remember us talking about an animation refresh some time back. This update, you'll start to see the fruits of those efforts with new animations for all weapon operations and player motions. Check them out and let us know what you think. For those looking to really pimp their ride, we've added new special vehicle skins to the game. Our first set will turn your run-of-the-mill Coupe RB into a sleek and sexy McLaren GT. Customized paint, rims, and even your brakes. These customizations can be crafted in the workshop or by collecting rewards from the new McLaren Crafters Pass. But before you go betting your pink slip, while it may look like a McLaren, it still performs like a regular old coupe. There's quite a bit more to learn about these updates and more, so check out the patch notes for full details. Update 19.2 is here, so drop in, wax up that new McLaren, and serve up some chicken dinner, extra bullets. We'll see you on the battlegrounds.
Day 2 of PCS7 APAC is upon us. Day 1 was all about Cerberus. They took home 3 chicken dinners and by far the best team on the day. Jordan, of course, as we head into day number 2, we need to see who's going to challenge them.
Yeah, look, and at the moment, it kind of doesn't really look like there's anyone that's going to be able to hold a candle to Cerberus. They're doing something a little bit day trade-esque if we turn our attentions back to PCS6. I mean, there is still, to be fair, day trade and SGD doing reasonably well for themselves, picking up a win yesterday too. But far and away, Cerberus, the most consistent team yesterday. Question is going to be whether or not they can bring that through to day 2. And yeah, of course, whether or not anyone else is going to be able to step up and challenge them.
Glad you brought that up. Kind of gone back and had a little bit of a look and seen what was day trade start like in PCS6 to compare. Well, they won 3 of the first 6 matches plus a second placed finish. So now, obviously, within the first 5, Cerberus have 3 wins and a third place finish. You can kind of see the similarities there. Of course, overview for the schedule here. APAC, Americas, sharing the spotlight at the moment. And then, of course, once we're done, Asia and Europe will then take over for PCS7 leading into PGC. And of course, the maps themselves, well, yesterday was dominated by Erinkal. Now it will be dominated by Miramar. And that's the other part of the equation, of course, is how does that kind of shake things up? I mean, when you kind of look at Cerberus, Jordan, they were basically do it on both maps, so it doesn't really matter for them. But for others, maybe a chance to continue a potential domination on Miramar. A day trade, for example, who had a very good day 1 on Miramar to close out the day.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think really for the most part, it has been a bit by the by for a lot of those teams as to whether or not that split has been super relevant. But yeah, day trade was probably the one team that you look at and say, maybe today's going to be a little bit better than yesterday was for them. Here's the prize pool, how things do shape up. Obviously, there's not much change coming through with respect to all the additional prizes as well. You know, when we talk about PCS, we have the kill leader, the insane squad, the all PCS team. That's all generally pretty standard stuff, which is all exciting. And at the moment, I guess, you know, Fantasy League is going to be a pretty hot topic. Maybe not amongst yourself and myself, so not because we're going horribly. But hey, if you picked up Tycon, that's not a bad shout for 10K.
But only 1% of the players for the Fantasy League have gone for him.
Yeah, I think he was a hard one to pick up because a lot of people would have looked at it and said he's actually a substitute for Cerberus. You know, in hindsight, it's probably a pretty dumb move on my behalf not to have picked him because I knew he would be playing. I spoke to some of the people at Cerberus and they told me that he was getting put into this roster and that he was like really nuts basically. And that he has also been in and around the Cerberus squad for the better part of a few years. He just hasn't been old enough to play in PCS yet. So yeah, I'm kind of feeling like a bit of a noob for not picking him up. And actually, to be fair, I'm feeling pretty bad about my fantasy team in general. But I will say, like, day trade kind of got it together toward the end of yesterday night. That made me feel a little bit better about my pick of Puchils. And I think Theraton 5 as well massively underperformed yesterday. So I'm expecting Reseda Jr. to sort of pick the pace up a little bit today, hopefully at least.
As you can see in this graphic, our British counterparts are very much leading the way. Maybe we can make a little comeback here on day 2. And I think when you kind of look at it, and particularly some of these lineups that we have just on this screen, I think for me and you, Jordan, we've gone with sort of the household names that we've seen in PCS APAC for so many years, whereas Chunk, Sagi, you know, you see like guys like Shen, even Ranger X, for example, as well, Young B, Shen, you know, again for Chunks too. So I think maybe we've just kind of unfortunately had a little bit of historical thought going into some of our decision making there. Now, of course, where it really matters, the matches that did play out for day number 1. And yes, Cerberus very much leading the way in both categories. Placement points, they're winning, and they're also dominating when it comes to kills. 78 points, massive lead of 34 points to Day Trade Gaming. And from there, I mean, you really do not want to be in that sort of bottom portion of the leaderboard this early on. And 2 teams to really highlight, Team Bliss,
don't do it.
Origami, Orangutans, sharing last and second last respectively. You know, we were kind of talking in the green room before we kind of got on here, and so this might be the worst we've seen from the Oceanic region in the history of PCS APAC. Looking to those 2 to bounce back today.
Yeah, certainly. I think for, pretty much the history of PCS, we've had at least an Australian team within the top 8. Now, both of them at the bottom of the table. Not looking too good. I definitely expect a bit better from Team Bliss. I think they can pick things up today. I don't know about Origami Orangutans. Normally, that second team coming through from the ANZ region does tend to struggle a bit, regardless of who it is. But yeah, definitely keen to kind of see Team Bliss pick things up. I mean, it's the same team that did very well last PCS. So I don't know that the expectations should be that low for them by any stretch of the imagination. On the other side of the coin, though, were the expectations this high for Cerberus, I wonder? And it's actually an interesting question because they've never actually been the best team within APAC. They've never been the team that in PCS events you've gone, yeah, Cerberus is going to come out and dominate. We've always talked about likes of Buram or back when Fury was in, that definitely them. Probably coming into this season, you might have thought Day Trade, after what a dominant season they had in PCS6, would be able to back that up. But Cerberus actually, in recent times, domestically speaking, have actually been really, really good. Looking at some of those SEA invitationals in particular, their results have been very, very solid. And they've kind of been one of those organizations that throughout the history of PCS has consistently been on the rise. If you go back and look at their results from PCS 1, 2, and 3, they're sort of sitting around like 12th, 14th, these kinds of places. And you don't really get too excited about that. But recently, and obviously back in PCS 6, they came in, I believe it was 4th place. So they've kind of been on the rise, right? It's gone from like bottom 8 to then in the middle stages of PCS to like sort of top 8s, and now it's up to top 5s, and potentially now it's even a win if things go as they have yesterday. So see what they can do, but very, very excited to see what Cerberus can get together, especially with their new player Tycon in the mix.
It feels like in 2022, the way we kind of speak about Cerberus has well and truly shifted. You know, you go all the way back, and I mean, at this point now, all the way back to sort of the beginning of the PCS era, the PCS 1s and the PCS 2s of the world, where Cerberus at the time and the team that they had at the time dominated locally. We thought every time coming into PCS APAC, they were going to be one of the teams to really shine through. And then they put up results like 5th, 13th, 5th, so they could never really compete with those top teams back in the day. You know, your Divine Esports, your Bureau Rams, your Furies, for example. So they were always sort of that one shelf below. But I think they've really reinvented themselves a little bit here in 2022. Very much a consistent team. You kind of just look at some of their numbers, and this is for all competitions. 1st, 3rd, 4th. 1st, 4th, 4th, 2nd, 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 1st, and a 5th in there as well. So, I mean, you're talking about an utterly consistent team in a battle royale. That really highlights their strength, and they're putting it all together at the moment here in PCS7 APAC as we are getting underway to head to Miramar for what will be a chance for everyone else to maybe try and catch up to Cerberus, and I guess for Cerberus, a chance to extend this lead.
Yeah, and I mean, just one more thing to note as we do continue to talk about Cerberus, when you're going through that list of numbers, there's really not that many firsts. Actually, there's a lot of 2nds, 3rds, 4ths, which is great, but obviously not being able to convert it is kind of a little bit of a mark against them. I think you start to sort of disregard that a little bit if they do manage to do it on the biggest stage. And realistically, within APAC, PCS is going to be that biggest stage. And I mean, look, they're definitely a team that would be looking forward to seeing playing at PGC as well. They did quite solidly in PCS 6. They've been really consistent this year. If they come into PCS 7 and win it, then they might be the team that we're kind of putting on that pedestal at PGC to say, okay, this is our representative from the APAC region that we hope to see do really well. Similar to maybe what you would have said about Buram and about Fury in last year's PGC event. So that's a storyline that definitely is changing coming into 2022 as we start to look toward PGC. I think the Titans of old have kind of fallen off a little bit, or even disappeared, obviously, in the case of Fury. And now we're starting to see new teams kind of come through. Cerberus, Day Trade. These are going to be the teams that we're talking about more so heading into PGC. But obviously, that's still a while away.
Yeah.
And we jump into day 2 of
And
games.
a beautiful graphic here as well, because I think obviously we've kind of spoken at length about Cerberus, rightfully so. I mean, an incredible day 1, but SGD, Day Trade Gaming, of course, still amongst it and not too far behind. Both obviously finding wins as well on day 1. Day Trade, really no surprise. We kind of probably anticipated them coming into this tournament being one of the favorites, if not maybe even the favorite. But for SGD, Jordan, a little bit of a sort of, well, I would say newer roster, because obviously new to PCS7, but a couple of players that have been around the block before, the likes of Sophia, the likes of Leo. These are familiar names. So, I mean, I'm not too surprised. Really good day 1, but how many times have we seen teams have one really good day and they're not quite able to back it up? That's probably the next test for them, and probably even for a couple of other teams as we finally get underway for our first match of the day. Remember, of course, we've got the 5 matches, 3 on Miramar, followed by 2 on Erangel. And yeah, Tycon really is, I guess, the player to watch even for today, Jordan, if he can sort of back it up again here on day 2.
Yeah, I believe Tycon has so far been the highest rated player in this event. So, yeah, I mean, the fact that he's literally the cheapest on the fantasy dollar figure and is pretty much putting up the most points is kind of a really interesting kind of contrast. So I guess if you know, you know, but not too many people knew. But for those that are the 1%, then yeah, definitely a very, very solid pickup. And I mean, again, like I said, I spoke to the Cerberus team a little bit prior to this, and it was, it sort of seemed like there was this kind of like, what's the word? Maybe they were really looking forward to sort of bringing Tycon into the mix because I think it had been like this, something that had been coming for a long time. Like they knew this was going to happen. They'd been having him inside the roster for a while, but they've obviously never been able to use him inside of PCS, and as a result, that's kind of been a bit disappointing, I suppose, for him. But now that he's gotten that opportunity, he's been able to really look super impressive. And it kind of looks like he's been able to elevate Cerberus to the next level. Like even last season, I probably would have said, yeah, look, Cerberus, definitely a deserving top 5 team. But were they realistically ever going to be contesting for the top spot? I mean, definitely not, considering how dominant Daytrade was. And we talked about that one little roster change that Daytrade made going into last season, which off the top of my head, I can't actually remember what that was. But they made one roster change, I remember. And that was like a big deal, it seemed like, to sort of put them through to the next level. And seems like the same kind of case here for Cerberus.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I feel like, at least in this region, we've had kind of a mix of both. We've had a couple of teams that have really sort of stuck it out for the majority of their time throughout the PCS era. And then you got other teams that just make that one change here or there, that one addition, and that can really sort of put them over the top and become a really top team. And I think that's kind of maybe where even, like, you look at Buriram United, they've finally kind of mixed things up a little bit, Cheekskin coming into that roster, whereas before, I mean, really almost, I want to say, Jordan, for almost like 5, maybe even 6 PCS events, they had largely the same kind of roster. So, and you've seen that obviously in the past with the likes of Bliss/Fury, of course, where they kept largely the same roster intact, found success. So others have kind of looked to, I guess, maybe chopping and changing a little bit to find that success. But when you look at Cerberus, really, besides Tycon, the rest of the 4 have been around the mark on that team for quite some time. So that one change, despite not really needing it, because we've seen them perform in the past, has maybe just elevated them to that one extra level. As we see Duck Juice here on our screen, a player actually I ended up putting in my fantasy league team, and obviously a pretty decent PCS6 event for the Expendables, but we'll see if they can obviously get cracking at the moment, sort of middle of the table from day one. Not really much to really gain here from even shooting at Julia here of MSC, but yeah, look, early days here on Miramar.
I really find the Expendables are kind of a hard team to read because I feel like they're just one of those explosive teams where if they're left unchecked a little bit, they're going to run away with a massive game. But often what you'll also see from them is that they just sort of go amiss for quite a few games in a row where they'll just go out really early, or they'll maybe only find like 1 kill here or there and not really do anything too special. And then they pop up with something like a 16 kill when you're like, oh, okay, well where did that really come from? If I remember rightly as well, they were the team last season that was contesting Pachinki against Attack All Around, so there was a little bit of that mess involved as well, which kind of made them a little bit harder to get a read on as well, because like it sort of felt like Arango was a bit of a write-off for at least one of those teams in every single game. Like there was never a world where both Attack All Around and the Expendables had the ability to get out of Pachinki safely with all 4 members. I think that might have only happened in like one game throughout the entirety of PCS6. So that's obviously not a factor for them this season. They don't have to deal with Attack All Around, which is going to be nice. But is that going to be a major benefit for them? Because I actually remember they picked up quite a few kills from Attack All Around. It seemed to
They did. Well, it also went both ways, though. I think
it did, yeah.
In the end, it was largely 50-50. But yeah, interesting you brought that up, obviously, because Attack All Around not here. In fact, quite a lot of teams that participated in PCS6 that we almost considered to be household names did not make it. Even the likes of Unicorn Phoenix, of course, as Utah surely finds his kill. No, never mind. Seat swap for Ranger X, actually landing that headshot. And he does have Glories just above, though, looking for the trade. Takes damage, though, by Path and Pong. Not ideal there for Genius Esports. They'll lose 1. They don't get the trade. Can they get anything else, though? Maybe not. Zest has to be careful because the rest of T5 on their way. And, of course, Genius have already lost 1.
Yeah, this is starting to actually look a little bit awkward for both of these teams. You can see shots coming in from either side. It seems like they've sort of both walked into a bit of a crossfire. Rosita Jr., I don't want to see him going down here for my fantasy team, but he really doesn't look like he's in a great spot at all. Probably popping a medkit. Escrosit is going to drop to Zest. There should be a trade in here from Rosita Jr., though, and instantly he gets traded down by Clory. So it's a bit of a mess indeed. They're at on 5 down to just the 2 players. Ranger X is very isolated away from this engagement as well, and it's just down to Clories and Simon T to try to salvage this scenario, but Clories is kind of the only one in a position to do anything about it. Simon's a little bit further north.
One thing I will say, though, about this fight is that it doesn't really feel like either team was in the wrong for initiating or fighting back. It just so happened to be sort of random drive-by. Clories has the higher position, but Pathompong here is peeking beautifully. Still has Ranger X alive, and that means it's a 2 versus 1 against Simon T, who, of course, as the one, is not even really there. Trying to utilize that SLR with the 8 times from a distance will, of course, finish off Extra Zit, but really the damage has been done onto both teams here. If Reseda Jr. cannot be brought back up, he is bleeding out, but they should be able to get the revive inside of the smoke, and they will, of course, pressure Simon T away. He'll go for it, but with the vehicle and into the smoke, it's very unlikely he'll be able to confirm Reseda Jr. So in the end, really only 1 death for 3 kills. That's a win for T5, considering they're in the bottom 4, Jordan. I think you'll be taking any points that you can get.
Yeah, really awkward one for GE, I think. They just sort of get caught in transition there. One of their players gets knocked over, really without any kind of response, and then instantly you're fighting sort of 4-on-3, and obviously you already had Simon, who was quite a bit further south than the rest of the squad, so he was almost not really a massive factor in that engagement. It turned out to be relatively comfortable for Terathon 5 in the end, but yeah, losing a player. I guess, end of the day, you know, it is super, so you're getting points on the board, and at the moment, I think Terathon 5 really do need to be getting some points from pretty much anywhere, right? They're down at the bottom of the scoreboard, so exactly what you're saying is true. I think they take that one. It's not ideal, but it's definitely not the end of the world, and they can continue carrying on with 3 players alive. Buram's an interesting one. You know, normally we, especially I find, do have a bit of a heavy bias towards Buram after being custodians of the era that they just absolutely dominated.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously a little bit of a fall off from Buram over the past 12 to 18 months, I would say. I think towards the back end of last year, they had started to fall off already. They missed a season of PCS as well. Still went through to PGC, but didn't do too well there. And now they're back. It's kind of nice to see Buram back. It sort of feels weird to have a PCS APAC without Buram in the mix. But it is pretty evident that they're not exactly the same force that they used to be, right?
No.
They have been eclipsed by a couple of other teams. And even though the team is largely remaining the same in terms of the makeup of the players, it's just not as dominant as what it once was.
And for the most part, if they are to make PGC, they're honestly going to have to win this event, and that's looking quite unlikely at the moment. And obviously, for those that are aware, if you do win PCS7 APAC, you do qualify directly to PGC, and then there's a whole bunch of other formulas, obviously, to sort of play out. Best Thai team, best Vietnamese team, based on PGC points. And this was kind of the conversation I wanted to almost have a little bit of time ago before we had that engagement, but the amount of teams, Jordan, that have not returned from PCS6 is quite large. You know, Unicorn Phoenix, BN United, Myth, Attack All Around, Magic Esports, Alter Ego, the list goes on. I mean, it's quite extraordinary because I feel like usually we have largely the same teams, minus, I'd say, a handful. It feels like 2 handfuls this time.
It's normally like maybe 5 or 6 new teams, but it definitely feels a little bit more than that this time. Is it like 9 teams or 8 or 9 teams are not returning? Extraordinaire, NRX, Luxurious Esports, and Senjo. Those are
10 new teams.
Yeah, those are probably the
technically.
4. Okay, well, 10 is insane. But yeah, I mean, you look at, I think in the case of maybe like Team Bliss, the Expendables, Archangel Predator, it kind of makes their job a little bit easier in qualifying through to PGC because of the fact that they don't have a lot of that middle of the pack to kind of contest them, right? BN United, Made in Thailand, Attack All Around, Magic Esports, they're all floating around in terms of PGC points very close by to Bliss and Expendables, but they're not here to back up their results in PCS6, and so they can't improve upon that. And even now you're looking at Team Bliss, who are pretty much at the bottom of the scoreboard. They're going to get like 10 points if that's where they end up. But that might actually be still enough to qualify them through to PGC, just if Archangel Predator, you know, or the Expendables isn't going to go above and beyond and sort of overtake them. And I mean, based on the way that Archangel Predator's been going as well, that actually doesn't look like it's going to happen. Expendables, maybe they're a bit of a shoo-in at the moment, but yeah, I mean, obviously it's still very, very early days to be talking about the PGC qualification, but I think it's fair to say that Day Trade, Terathon 5, Unicorn Phoenix, Cerberus, they're probably all good at the moment. So it's kind of just what is going to happen for Team Bliss, the Expendables, and Archangel Predator. I have to imagine it's 2 of those 3, unless I guess someone like Buram maybe sort of gets into the top 2 or something like that. He's able to eclipse them within 1 event's worth of points, but yeah, it's very, very, very weird at the moment, I think, for those few teams. And most of that comes down to the fact that a lot of teams are just not repeat attendees, which is kind of awkward.
35 seconds until phase 3. Just the 4 deaths so far, 3 from Genius Esports and 1 from Teratom 5. Of course, over towards Chumacera is where we are heading for this first map of Miramar, hence why we've got some of the teams already sort of located in this vicinity. We haven't really probably spoken too much about the circle in this game at the moment, but there is a lot of space generally around the Chumacera area, along, of course, with the city itself. You've got the mountains on the south side that provide pretty much a lot of space. So you can kind of see that now as we are going to be getting that next circle shift. Does it go away from the city? Not quite, and does, though, keep at least quite a large mountain range still intact. But for Archangel Predator, not a bad little spot. Same for Day Trade, Cerberus, SGD, both inside of the city as well. Not a very difficult circle, though, to navigate in my eyes for a phase 3. A lot of room still. But probably going to start to see a little bit more of this, though. A little bit more action. Shem with the headshot knockdown onto Hisaki, and Cerberus making the push right on top of SGD.
Well, this is going to be good news for everyone that is not named Cerberus, at least seeing that initial player knocked down. And I'd say probably unresable. You do have Day Trade in here as well, looking to third party this one, but Shen is going to confirm his kill. And that's 1 on the board for SGD. A little bit of excitement for Theraton 5 as they start to make their way in as well. Obviously, the Juno needs to be a little careful of Ranger X just sending it in like that, but we're all good. 3 players only for Theraton 5, but they have managed to get a fairly central circle position. It's a nice crash, nice send from them, and pretty happy to see that. Now it's just going to be a question of whether or not they can lock down this building.
Cuts out from there. Of course, wanting to sort of just defend this area. Wow, I just saw a vehicle do a front flip there for a brief moment of time. IKR now pushing on to Bureau Arab United. They may just get their first test here in this first match of the night. Canaxi really kind of stuck out in the middle of nowhere. Does at least have cover with the vehicles, both broken down and droppable. Edie, though, getting the open kill. Turn around. No, can't take out AT. Fortunately, though, for Bureau Arab, Canaxi did get the down onto J end as well. But yeah, Canaxi is really stuck between a rock and a hard place outside. If he can push towards this building, it may just help him, but obviously for the time being has to get that first aid kit off.
Has managed to do so. He's getting a bit of assistance from Cheeksing, but Nordra's also dropped, so that's not good news for Buram. He'll be finished off as well. The grenade is not really enough to knock anyone else over, but it does finish off J end. Buram, I dare say, not feeling too happy about the way that this one has played out. Neither is IKR, I'll mention, but they're hanging on a little better. Although they have lost the 1 player and they're probably not too pleased about it. Looks like that little engagement, that little skirmish is going to slow down for the moment. I don't imagine that IKR player, whoever's up the top, is going to be dropping off anytime soon. But the Molotov is going to force him out. Nice one from Canaxi. He's going to bring it back to the 2-on-2. Buram will be very desperate to finish this kill off as well. You can see Canaxi just spamming through that smoke, but no chance as that player FP has worked his way a little bit further along in the wall of smokes. It's just Smoke City in this engagement.
PMA take it out from, well, what is it? I was going to say Malaysia, but they do have 2 Taiwanese players on the roster as well. They'll go out in last place for our first match of the night. So massive job done, though, by Canaxi, considering the position outside the building, holding that central area to find 2 kills and then to push in, stay alive. Just unfortunate for Buram that they've taken damage back the other way, losing 2 players, but at least picking up some points and thereabouts really early on here for the leaderboard, top 5 position.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing within Indonesia. I sort of feel like you see those teams popping up every now and then. There's like From the Future, Victim Rise, all these kinds of teams that, like, they're in 1 season of PCS, then they're out 1 season of PCS, and then back again, but with a different roster. It's all a little bit of a mess, actually. But yeah, kind of nice to see From the Future back. A lot of returning members. Trick, Teddy, Man, obviously been in PCS before. Delta Mix, I believe, is new to PCS. It hasn't been exactly the start that From the Future would have wanted, but it hasn't been awful. They're definitely in the mix. They're definitely in the middle of that pack. This, though, is probably not going to go very well for them. That is clean from MS Chonburi, and that is exactly what they needed too, because they are starting to elevate their standing. 5 kills in this game, 4 players alive. Neil T's going to get 2 on the drive-by as well. That's not gone well for Origami Orangutans. Kang is going to try to salvage. Reigns there as well to assist, but it's down to just the 1 or 2 members left. Van, gonna get the better of Rain. End of the day, though, have to imagine NGE should have this one cleaned up, and they do. They'll be able to get all 4 players back into the mix, Xenox, and that has unfortunately not changed the fortunes too much of Origami Orangutans as we head into day 2.
Yeah, unfortunate for them. Still stuck on the bottom of the standings. The Oceanic Brothers still only just the 1 point above them, though, in Team Bliss, and they've been relatively quiet, but they do have 4 players alive. Could help them out in this particular game. And it's Tromburi now, moving over to the Expendables. Levi's watching just close by. Xiaoman actually priming that nade, throws it over towards the vehicle. Didn't find anyone, but it's Job Jab. He's going to get the job done onto Levi's. Julia will finish that one off. Nice spray again from Job Jab. Talk about a frontline player making an impact. 2 quick downs. It's just 777 left over towards this position. Ooh. Able to heal up. He has a nade that he can throw up onto MS Chomburi, but it's a difficult one to land, and yet he does land it nonetheless. One to Julio, a second one thrown over. It's the last one he's got. He will at least secure the kill and put a big dent into MS Chomburi's chance of winning this game.
Yeah, every point matters at this moment for the Expendables. They're still sitting in the middle of that pack, and we know how tight it can be there later on in the season. Obviously, we do see 777 go down to the zone, so that's the Expendables out now in 13th place. But MSC be able to revive Skeet. They do lose a player for that engagement, though. So overall, look, I mean, it hasn't been a bad shout at all from MSC thus far. 7 kills. No. I think you'll take that and head into the late stages of this game with 3 alive, but safe and happy in the thought that you've already pretty much done your work for this game. This engagement between Buram and Icarus is still persisting, which is, I suppose, fair enough. They're inside the zone for the moment, but we'll... Oh, never mind. I've just seen the updated zone. It's not looking too good for either of those teams. They're going to have to move, which is not going to be fun times.
There's a couple of teams, though, that are probably quite happy with this phase 5 circle shift. Team Bliss, Cerberus being 2 of those. I don't think Daytrade's in a horrible position either. They do have a little bit of company here, though. EA making a big mistake here. Sapnik's going to get knocked down. He'll get brought back up. They do have, though, another team pushing in this direction in NGE. So
and Daytrade.
They have to be getting that player back up as soon as possible. And Flash now throws the nade. Not close, though. Not even, really. Should be able to get this. Although there was a nade that landed in that position. Van gets the double. So a big mistake for E-Arena. Sees them get punished. You can't be making mistakes this late in the game and not expecting others to capitalize on it.
Yeah, that's really going to cost them as well, because they're just trying to breach into the zone and immediately they're down to 3. They're trying to salvage that scenario, but they're getting harassed on the way in. And yeah, unfortunately, when other teams are already set up, it's not going to go too well for you. Lyrics, a little bit of a messy spray there onto Neil T after securing the knock. Means that he doesn't secure the kill, which is great news for NGE. Not so good for E-Arena, who, to be fair, are not desperate for points at the moment. They're sitting inside the top 4. But obviously, things can change on a dime given how close things are, sitting in 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah, but you got to take your points where you can get them. And honestly, this should be a world in which they have all 4 players in this position. But that team runover has cost them big time. Now, New Generation need to make sure they don't get a little too hasty here. Lyrics, his head was popping through that window for a moment in time, but not long enough for Diane to find that kill. So there goes Y8. That's Icarus gone in 12th position, getting closer to our final 8 teams for those placement points. Remember, Daytrade, though, they've moved away from this position, so no third-party potential. DLT, he got over-aggressive, did get taken down by Zizzy, but fortunately for New Generation, they will be able to get that revive as Archangel Predator now pushing in close by as well. They do have a little snake in the grass, though, behind them. It's Simon T for Genius Esports, and he's just going to allow them to run on by, and he can now push up into those smokes as well if he so chooses to.
He could cause so many problems for Archangel Predator right here. They are in an engagement against Daytrade. They've got that knock onto Poochills. Haven't confirmed the kill just yet, but if Simon strikes from behind, that could be a real thorn in the side for Archangel Predator. Though, looks like he's going to opt for a little bit more of a slower play. He's going to try to rat it out and get himself an extra placement point or 2. Poochills was finished off. Daytrade now down a player, but still with a healthy 3. Center of the circle for Daytrade after that zone shift as well is looking relatively good as long as they can get their forces together. Team Bliss.
Team Bliss on the move.
They've been flying under the radar a little bit so far tonight. Haven't really done too much. Just the 1 kill for them in this game.
Yeah, well, compound sitting, sometimes you're just going to have a quiet one, and it's kind of the way that the circle has played out for them. And obviously, this is kind of the first phase where they've had to really move. They do have the 1 kill, and should have a lot of utility and a lot of supplies now for this late round fight here over towards the edge of Chumacera. So, 8 teams left, placement points now up for grabs. What's a little scary, though, is we've got 4 of the top 5 teams left alive. So, form from yesterday translating early here for day number 2. It's the same teams once again at the top, and then kind of the whole middle. Oh, no, that's unfortunate. Diane, you can't be running in front of your teammate when he's shooting with that mini scoped in, and they will now get punished for it. Well, it was a mistake from E-Arena before that got capitalized by New Generation, and now New Generation making mistakes themselves.
Archangel Predator looking pretty good at the moment. Youngby, though, has a bead onto CJ, not able to land as many shots as he needed. There was even a second chance there, but he'll get taken down pretty comfortably by Evil Patrick. And so Archangel Predator, they're going to be on the rise this game. They are one of 3 teams now in the remaining 7 that have all 4 players up. They're on 5. We'll see Rosita Jr. go down, and it's not an ideal timing for them for that to occur with the blue at their back.
Just looking at that minimap, though, for a brief second. We don't obviously have the full map on our screen, but I did see Cerberus. I think they're on the wrong side of the road here for this Phase 6 circle. So at some point, they're going to have to get moving, unless they get a Phase 7 shift. Bath and Pong trying to see what he can find, leading the way for the other 2 members, Rosita Jr. and Ranger X. We saw them, of course, at the start of this game in that little fracas, which they've been able to at least stay alive for the most part and keep themselves in contention for the late game. So despite fighting early, Jordan, getting those 3 kills, losing the 1 player, of course, extra is it, they've still actually got themselves in a position where they're getting placement points and can fight again here late. But there's that overview. That's what I'm talking about there for Cerberus. They're on the wrong side of the road, especially if Phase 7 continues to track on to day trade here. Cerberus could be in a little bit of trouble. It's a bit of an uphill terrain. It depends on their vehicle situation. It also depends on where the circle does go. And yeah, indeed, right on top of day trade. So Cerberus needs to get moving. I'm not sure if wrapping into SGD and MSC is the right play, which means I think their best option might be to go right on top of Team Bliss.
That would be a big wrap. And they'd be running into 4 members as a 3-man core, which is maybe not ideal. Archangel Predator have an interesting position to play from here. They're kind of like the gatekeepers of this high ground. Daytrade don't have an angle onto Archangel Predator, but Archangel Predator certainly have a great angle onto Theraton 5, also onto SGD, MSC as well. Pretty much anyone that's going to be moving inside of Chumacera is going to be having shots rained down upon them from Archangel Predator. A 1-for-1 between SGD and Theraton 5 has actually seen a kill secured by Patton Pong, whereas Ranger X can be revived. But, I mean, Theraton 5, how many knocks have they dealt with so far this game? Those players, as soon as they get knocked, are starting to bleed out pretty damn quick at this point. And they're going to have to move shortly, so they really have to do this perfectly. Straight through the smoke.
Oh, Leo
And Jervis have found one apiece. Skeet needs to be very careful. That grenade doesn't land right next to him. It's not going to matter. MSC are done and dusted, and it looks like SGD are going to be picking up a bunch of points. Rosita Jr., he has managed to get himself a medkit off, but that zone is at his back, and he's got to go. Nice shots onto Shen. How much is that going to help him, though?
Yeah, it just felt like the damn wall was breaking there for Theraton 5. Jervis, and surely we'll get him out. It's actually Nan that got that down. Jervis, though, will say thank you for the knock, and I'll finish what I started. 5 kills now for SGD. So we've still got our top 3 teams alive, Jordan. It's a little hard to catch up to Cerberus, though, if they are still involved. And a chance inside. He had the high ground. He had the peak. But Sololzi sits him down. Bryn trying to flash back the other way and throw it out, but it's a little delayed. It's Bryn, though, with a nade from above that gets the down onto Sololzi. And Team Bliss can never recover from this situation. Cerberus, they made the run across the road. Tycon led the way. Smokes go out as they try and just get the revive onto Sololzi. It's only the duo left remaining for Cerberus. This is a really, really big opportunity for Team Bliss, and they've got Monty on the south side wrapping in as well, making sure no one pushes on their position. This is looking like AAP versus Team Bliss.
Certainly seems that way. I mean, day trade Cerberus could really throw a bit of a spanner in the works. Leo for SGD. I'm not sure how he's still alive, or I'm not sure how Tycon and the rest of Cerberus are still alive either. It had to be one of those 2 teams gone, and Leo has secured an extra couple of points for SGD. Fantastic work. Brings them up into 2nd place. Day Trade still hanging on, may be able to reclaim that, but it's been a big game to start the night for SGD, and they're starting to knock on the door of, obviously, the top two. Don't know that it's too threatening just yet for Cerberus, but if they continue in this fashion, it could well be. Main storylines, though, for this one are for both Archangel Predator and Team Bliss. An opportunity, really, to kickstart PCS7 for themselves. I mean, Team Bliss certainly haven't gotten anything done so far. Archangel Predator have gotten not a lot done so far. So for both of these two teams, a big win right here would be a nice launching platform, and it feels very important for both of these teams to kind of convert this one.
Oh, I think Leo just made the cross. No, Insight, I think, spotted him at the very last second. Big kill for Insight, big kill for Team Bliss. Day Trade not long for this world now. Archangel Predator just getting good position. Flash, though, gets the knock on to Mad Dog, and this is maybe going to open things up for Team Bliss. Never mind. CJ also getting the down onto Insight. It's AAP
3v3
that are probably in the best position right now, with CJ holding that high ground position. If they can get this revive onto Mad Dog, but I guess then Team Bliss will be saying the same thing. If they can get the revive at Insight, and they do just that. It looks as if we are going to be set up for a 4 versus 4. You can see CJ, how high he is right now, up above, and how much he can see. But it goes both ways, Jordan. If he's peeking out, it can be very easy to then spot him, shoot him, down him, and then Team Blizz can push on to AAP.
I think you're 100% right. And I think CJ is going to be the big difference maker here for both Archangel Predator and Team Bliss. If he over peaks, if he gets a little bit over eager to, get some damage done and just gets absolutely knocked out of the park, then yeah, he's going to give up a member, and it'll be very difficult to revive him in a position like that. Whereas, again, he can do a lot of work if he just bides his time, finds the right opportunity to peek, catches one of the Team Bliss members when they're not looking. It's really CJ, I feel, that's the linchpin in this fight. You'd have to give the benefit of the doubt to Team Bliss at the moment. I think they do have the better positioning, but I like what Team Bliss is being able to do as they get a little bit of a flank on here, try to take some circle control. It just doesn't feel as though they have as good cover as what Archangel Predator have to play with right now.
Well, we've got 2 minutes, and then it's all going to be sorted. Who's going to make that first step? And in some ways, who's maybe going to make the first mistake? Feels like that's what really Game 1 tonight has all been about. We've seen a couple of big mistakes get punished. Both of these two teams, though, well and truly aware that they need to start finding some points. Of course, for AAP, 7th at the moment, but if they want to keep in touch with the top 3, a win here would be able to help them. And for Team Bliss, a way to sort of maybe ignite the start for PCS7, a very, very slow day 1. Might just get off to a fast start here for day 2. Smokes are out as teams will push towards each other now. It's getting close. 9 kills for AAP, 3 kills for Team Bliss. Who's going to find that first down? It feels so important.
Yeah, and I love the fact that it's 50-50 on the winner-winner chicken dinner percentage, because it really does feel a little bit like that at the moment. Both teams just hiding behind this wall of smokes, not wanting to make a big mistake at all. All that util's being tossed in. You're seeing even the flashes, the mollies going out. Mad Dog's got another smoke mirage one as well. Nobody wants to be that player that goes down first and, in a sense, kind of throws the game away for their respective squad. Insight now on the move, takes the peek. Mad Dog drops. It's 1 down for Archangel Predator.
Mirage was expecting the trade, and in the end it did come, but it came from a different direction. Nan actually got 2. So now, Team Bliss down to 2 standing players. It's a 2 versus 3. Bryn is so close to Evil Patrick. He has got no idea how close he is. Bryn's going to be able to sneak in from behind. He just sprays through the smoke, gets the down onto CJ to 2 versus 2 now. But we are running out of time. 40 seconds left. So much smoke. They're going to have to start finding each other shortly here. Nan does find them indeed. He got almost all of them in the end. 13 kills for Archangel Predator. Nan leading the way. And the Philippines off to a good start here for day 2.
Yeah, really nice bounce back from Archangel Predator. It has to be said. A little bit of a disappointing in day 1, and to be honest, quite a disappointing PCS6 as well from Archangel Predator. I had high hopes for them going into the previous season after some really solid performances in previous PCS events, and I also thought not too bad of a performance at PGC considering they were playing with a substitute. But they didn't put it together last season, and yeah, it looked a little bit worrisome for them last night as well, but really, really good start here to day number 2, and for Archangel Predator, which is quite a storied name in this region. It is nice to see them performing quite well, even if it is at the cost of our beloved Team Bliss. No bias from the Aussie casters. I will say, though, like, obviously a much better showing from Team Bliss to make it into the top 2 to kick off the night. I mean, yeah, it's disappointing to not walk away with the win in that particular game, but it must be a good feeling to at least look at that and say, hey, we're kind of on the right trajectory, right? We're doing much better than yesterday. It wasn't a 0-point game. So they can take heart in that. I think the main issue for me is that you do still see quite a lot of those teams toward the top end kind of picking up a decent chunk of points, right? Cerberus did okay for themselves. Day Trade the same. SGD as well. Even Buriram managed to get a little bit done there. So for the teams that are sort of still trying to catch up, like it's not really helping them a lot because the top dogs are still kind of putting themselves apart from the rest.
Yeah, I think what it does do, and kind of what you're alluding to there, it's just a confidence builder for Team Bliss and, of course, also for Archangel Predator. Full credit to Nan. I mean, completely leading the way in that situation, getting those 2 critical kills after Team Bliss actually found the opening one, and then also dealing with that lurking Bryn inside of the smoke who got an amazing kill onto CJ. What a way to sort of, I guess, kickstart day number 2. But as you kind of pointed out, obviously you've kind of got the same teams that played well on day 1. Once again, playing well here in day 2. It's only early day. It's only the first match. We've got 4 more after this, but you're looking at SGD, Day Trade. I mean, Cerberus, of course, made top 5. No kills, but again, a team that's just sort of on the radar. So being able to extend those points early on, there is that top 3 kind of forming, and that's usually what happens for PCS APAC. We tend to see a bit of a top 2, top 3, and then that middle pack fighting and struggling behind. What it does for Team Bliss, still second last, Jordan, but 21 points now kind of puts them in the, what I'd say, the 20s, right? Which goes all the way from 15th to 8th. So obviously they can sort of build from that, but a couple of other teams that probably continuing a little bit of a struggle here. Icarus, they're at top 5. They were in and amongst it. They picked up some valuable points, but obviously it's the orangutans. Hard to go past them. They need to find a new gear, I think, if they're going to find some points in this competition. But what a match from Archangel Predator. 23 points. And really what this highlights is that if you can put those kind of performances on paper, how quick you can actually catch up to a Cerberus, for example, right? You're looking at, say, SGD. They're 30 points behind Cerberus. You go and put on 23 points, your 30-point gap is now 7, and we've got a game on our hands. So that's something to kind of keep an eye on. All it takes in this competition is a few bad games for Cerberus, and they will have a team hot on their tail.
Yeah, I mean, the issue for me with Archangel Predator is that those kinds of performances do tend to be a little bit too few and far between in the last year or so. I mean, we sort of even saw, if you go back to PCS6, right, their very first game, a 17-kill game, where they actually finished 7th, which was super weird how that actually played out. But it's so evident that Archangel Predator is a team that can have these big games, these big pop-off games, but can they do it on a consistent basis is kind of the question that I'm looking to answer. And I'm still not convinced. Obviously, that's one good game for them so far this season, but they're going to need to have a little bit more than that. And they're certainly going to need to be avoiding those sort of 15th places that we saw cropping up a little bit yesterday. Has helped them out, though. They've managed to jump up into the top 4. They are fairly squarely in the top 4 as well. Good 5-6 points ahead of E-Arena and MS Chonburi, but obviously it's still early days, so probably not really worth mentioning that too much at the moment.
Well, it's a big win for them, though. They went through all of PCS 6 without a win. And again, as you kind of said before, a team, a name that is almost sort of historic in PCS APAC, representing the Philippines, to not get a win in PCS 6, to finish in the bottom 4. It was a disaster season for them, but obviously now sort of back where they feel they rightfully belong towards the top end. The Origami Orangutans, though, the lads from down under, struggling at the moment. And, you know, you always sort of talk about this, Jordan, that the, quote, second team from OCE not able to sort of match the I guess, the number 1 team, which is, you know, in the years gone by, the Atleticos, the Furies, the Incognitos, of course, in the very, very early days. Always a very difficult
Astra
task, I guess. Well, yeah, I mean Astra, but they weren't that good when they were Astra, to be honest.
No, they weren't.
Always a difficult sort of prospect to match, but right now, when I look at this team and I look at the Origami Orangutans, you've got a couple of new names, you've got a couple of new faces that, of course, have not been in this position before. So it's a learning kind of PCS for them, what they can gain from this, and see them come back strong in PCS 8, if there is one. For PMA, last place for them. And, you know, names that we've seen before, Mr. Clay, Teddy, for example, as well. But, yeah, a bit of a slow start for them too, of course. A little bit of a split, Malaysia and Taiwan.
Yeah, I'm kind of liking the fact that we are getting some Malaysian representation here in PCS. I don't think we've really had a lot of that in the past. It's generally been like Indonesia, the Philippines coming through from those quote-unquote rest of SEA qualifiers. The Challenger Rumble it was this time around. Yeah, and I know that there's been a lot of sort of hype around this SGD roster. I've heard a lot of talk around what they were going to be able to do and that they were going to be able to represent Malaysia quite well. And I'm happy to see that they are doing that and they are converting it. And it doesn't sort of seem like it's a flash in the pan, right? That was one of the big questions you had coming into today, was whether or not yesterday was maybe a bit of a fluke or was it a one-off? Doesn't really look like it based on what we saw today. They seem to have the goods as they did perform quite well in game number 1. What's going on for Thailand, though, I guess is a big question because back in PCS 6, it was really Vietnamese domination. We saw Daytrade, Unicorn Phoenix, Cerberus in the top 4, and Theraton 5 was the only Thai team to make it inside of the top 4. Right now, kind of getting the same vibe. Cerberus up the top, Daytrade doing relatively well for themselves, so there's something to sort of touch on there, but what are we going to get from Vietnam versus Thailand? I know that's always a big matchup. It's always a big talking point. I want to see a little bit more from Buriram, from E-Arena and MSC as well.
Let's head into match 7. Our second game of the day once again on Miramar. And a big opportunity, of course, for Archangel Predator to honestly go 2 from 2. I think this is where they can really shine. We've seen it in PCS events gone by where once they get on a roll, they are a difficult team to stop. The bigger thing for me, though, is for Cerberus now, of course. That was not their worst game, of course, for PCS7. They did have that 11th place no-kill finish back on day 1. But really, when you kind of look at the collective 6 rounds that they've played so far, the second worst game was their last game. So is that going to start to play on their minds if they have a couple of bad games today here for day 2, allow that wonderful lead that they came into today with dissipate? And that could put some doubts into their minds going into tomorrow. We'll see how they bounce back from that one, because obviously in the last game that they struggled, they bounced back with a win, and 11 kills is the old Cerberus. For Archangel Predator, though, much needed points. They did have a 3rd place finish on day 1, in fact, in game 1, Jordan. But outside of that, 15th, 7th, 11th, 15th. So big result for them. Sees them up into the top 4 as we head into our second game of the night.
Yeah, and also not too many kills in a lot of those games yesterday as well. I think they've almost doubled their kills in one game today versus what they got in the 5 games yesterday. I think they had 14 kills yesterday. They've got 13 in game 1. Yeah, I mean, on the topic of Archangel Predator, I think they're definitely one of those teams that if they start to get on a bit of a roll, they're a very momentum-based team and they can really start to dominate. Like, they've got some very talented players there. It's just it's been a bit of a unfortunate period for them in the PCS events recently. Still, good start to today. Nan with the 6 kills. CJ there as well inside of the top 5. And obviously some pretty good damage numbers being put up as well by those 2 AAP members.
Yeah, just touching on Job Jab, who we obviously got to see firsthand for MS Jomburi, finding a couple of kills in the sort of latter stage of the mid round in that first game. And sometimes when you kind of get these kill numbers, it can be inflated. But he was at the front. He was leading. He was the entry. He was getting those kills for MSC. So to get those kills, to get the damage, and to be the first one, pushing and peaking, really says a lot about him as a player and the talent that he's got. And of course for MS Jomburi, they got a good one there. They just need the placement points for that team. They've got 28 kills, Jordan, which is, I think, good for 3rd place, but only 9 placement points. And we've seen teams in the past, time and time again, that are, one or the other. They either really good at placement points, no kills, or get a lot of kills, no placement points. The best teams, though, they're able to play both categories to perfection. And that's something that SGD probably need to look at as well. Only the 17 placement points, but 34 kill points, which is, close to almost sort of Cerberus kind of numbers. They just got to stay alive that little bit longer. You look at some of their placement finishes, 6th, 14th, 10th, 8th, and 4th, besides the 1 win they had yesterday in day 1 where they had a win and 16 kills, which is a large portion of their points. So consistency needs to be the name of the game for them if they're going to compete with Cerberus.
Always is. Always a big discussion around consistency, isn't it? But SGD, as long as they're winning a lot of their fights, I think you can sort of expect that consistency will start to come through in the long term. Icarus, on the other hand, they have a lot of work to do. They're sitting down in 13th place at the moment. Didn't do so well in the first game of the day. Only got the 2 kills, and those came from
Is it at or AT?
AT. I sort of thought about that. I'm sure you could hear it in my voice when I said at.
they've got FP, so we can go AT and FP.
AT and FP. I mean, I think AT sounds a little bit nicer, but who knows?
Yeah, look, not a bad team there, and the one thing about them, 9th, 7th, right? They're thereabouts. It's just being able to not be the team that goes out on the bubble, the 9th place bubble, and you're not getting anything from that kind of game in terms of placement points. So that's kind of the next, I guess, step for them. E-Arena, we kind of saw basically shot themselves in the foot in the last game, really, making that poor team run over right as they were sort of crashing into the backside of Chimusera. Had they not really made that mistake, they would have had 4 players up in a fight that they almost won anyway with 2. So it's just about obviously not making mistakes for them. And they've been largely pretty good so far throughout the first 6 matches. That was actually their first real blemish, Jordan. In fact, if you go back and look at the numbers from yesterday for E-Arena, 7th with 6 kills, 4th with 2 kills, 2nd with 5 kills, 6th with 4 kills, 9th but with 7 kills. So that 11th place finish with no kills, largely in part to their own unfortunate mistake, and a mistake we see many teams in APAC make, was their downfall, and so far is the only downfall they've made to start PCS7. So look to them to bounce back here in match 7.
Yeah, look, I don't think it's the end of the world. I mean, every team is going to have a bad game here or there. It's just the nature of esports in PUBG. Even looking at Cerberus, they had a 0-point game yesterday, even though they won nearly 3 in a row. Didn't quite manage to get that feat. Very few teams do. But yeah, I mean, I don't think you can stress too much on one rougher game. Sometimes the circle is just not favorable for you. There's not a whole lot you can do. Or maybe you run into a team at a time that really isn't particularly opportune for you. We saw that between Teraton 5 and GE at the start of last game. I don't think GE really felt like they had a good crack at that one. It was just Simon T that was trying to keep the dream alive for GE, as his entire team pretty much got wiped out before the 10-minute mark. Ram and Icarus might run into one another, but looks like they'll just avoid each other as best as possible. It's probably ideal at this point in the game. Oh, are they? Ram's pulling up, that's for sure. And Cheeksy, he looks pretty interested.
Yeah, Buram, the team in the past that I never
don't
really
shy away from
associated
fights.
with. Well, not shy away from fights, but at this stage, this early on, 6.5 minutes in, wasn't always in their nature to go this early on. But, it's a new look, Buram. New ideas. And also, not only that, Jordan, but we had, obviously, the most chicken rule for a little while there. It's been a while since the old super rule set came back in. So when we obviously didn't have Buram when it did come back in, we actually haven't seen them for a long while when you think about it under this format. Taking some damage here from old AT. The Mini 14 getting put to good use there and did land some damage onto ED. No knock, but at least forced them to use some of their supplies early on. But yeah, I don't think there's any way that Buram will be looking to fight here, especially when you got 3 players inside of 1 vehicle. Never ends well if you want to force the fight there. We did have our circle, by the way, in San Martin, Al Pozo direction. La Cob on the north side still in. Montenuevo on the south side as well. So really, when we think about Phase 1, Miramar's, I'm not expecting any kind of action here. So much room. I mean, you've got essentially 4 major cities in this circle as well. So even if you're struggling for whatever reason to find some space, you've got some backup options. So I think we're going to have a very slow going Phase 1.
Yeah, definitely is a little bit of a slower start normally on Miramar, and sort of what we're expecting to see out of this one as well. I think it's probably a good time to, again, touch on and sort of reiterate how close some of the teams are on the standings. I think if you look at the Expendables, 26 all the way down to Teraton 5 on 20 points. It's only a 6-point gap between 15th and 8th right now. And for any one of those teams, if they have even like a half-decent game, like if Team Bliss was able to even get like another second here, back-to-back, for example, they're going to jump their way pretty much up back into 8th. And potentially even start to put pressure on the teams in 7th. Like, there is a fairly significant drop between Buram and the Expendables, where you're going to need to have probably a couple of good games to get yourself back into that top 8. But hey, this is exactly the start that you'd be wanting to see if you're a fan of PUBG. And I say that because I don't think anyone actually wants to watch a repeat of PCS6, where the team that utterly dominated day 1 goes on to utterly dominate day 2 and then 3 as well. and just makes for a boring week 2. I kind of want to see, like, low-key, and it's not low-key anymore because I'm saying it in front of thousands of viewers, I kind of want to see Cerberus struggle today. You know, I want to see SGD and Daytrade being able to jostle for first place. I don't want them to run away with it.
Well, to add context to that, who didn't maybe see PCS6, Daytrade, 6 of the 9 matches that first played out, top 2. And 5 of those being wins. Patton Pong should be able to get Duck Juice here. Unfortunate for my fantasy league, but fortunate for Theraton 5, and he'll look to finish him off with the nade. But yeah, look, I agree with you in some sense, Jordan. You know, you think back to PCS6 and Daytrade through 9 rounds, had won it. It was over. It was completely over. 9 rounds into week 1. You know, to get basically 5 wins and 1 second place finish in the first 9 games is ridiculous. They did cool off a little bit from there, but the damage had been well and truly done. But at the same time, I'm not necessarily against seeing a team just playing really good PUBG at a consistent level, at a very, very high level. And then if that team can then take it internationally when you can do well for APAC, I'll be very happy with that. Shen finding the kills of Cheeksing. That's not ideal for Buriram. Not sure actually what Cheeksing was doing there. In fact, Buriram quite split. Very split indeed. Kanaxi by himself, Nordra as well with Edie. But yeah, it's a strange little bit of movement there from Buriram, and it costs them.
Yeah, and I did want to just update everyone on a little bit of going on at the moment. If you're one of the eagle-eyed viewers that's been spying the external leaderboards, Theraton 5 are on those in 14th place. They're here in 15th. They did cop a couple of points penalty. That's why they're dropped down a peg. So just to be aware of that. The correct standings are the ones on the broadcast. Daytrade will be happy to start things off with a kill. Every point really matters for Daytrade and SGG at the moment. Not only are they trying to hold off a fairly informed Archangel Predator by the looks of things, but also they have a lot of work to do to catch up to Cerberus at the moment. Belmoth lucky to not take a single shot of damage there. Gets away with absolute murder.
Man, that backseat on the buggy is just a massive armor plate, isn't it? And Belmoth, yeah, gets away scot-free, and that's unfortunate for Rain, unfortunately for the orangutans. And they've got a prime team now across the street from them, and a lot of teams making their way over towards Al Pozo. In fact, the vast majority of teams with this Phase 2 circle shift, Crater Field's still in play, and we've seen this go north a couple of times before. But Al Pozo is the safe bet, Jordan, for now. Not only that, but with this hard shift, it has taken a lot of that free real estate away from Phase 1. So we've gone from that slow start to what could actually end up being a little bit more of a pacey mid-game here. Maybe not so much Phase 2, but definitely then Phase 3 and Phase 4. Cerberus close by to From the Future on the rotation, not too close to it. And they did lose a player, of course, as well. So only the 3 players. Losing Sololzi early on means that a bit of a tough ask for them in this next match. So you might just get your wish, Jordan. You might just see Cerberus stumble here today for day 2. Slow start in match 1. And another slow start here in match 2.
I have to agree with you. I think this is going to end up being quite a busy mid-game. Normally, with the circles heading a little more central, you're going to have teams entering from 360 degrees. But now, pretty much, you've got teams entering from 180 degrees just from the southeast. And that is unfortunately not going to be a very good sign for Buriram and obviously a bunch of the other teams that are still having to come in behind Buriram. Because there's a lot already built up inside of El Pozo. I mean, Daytrade and Origami Orangutans have kind of set up a gauntlet run for anyone that wants to enter El Pozo. They've got themselves set up on either side of that road, and I just don't think you're getting through there with any degree of comfortability. So probably better to not even try. Leo with the fancy footwork in and out of the vehicle. He's going to try it again, but just gets a little bit too fancy for himself. I don't know that there was really too much that he could do there, unfortunately, so he'll get knocked down. And GE will hope to pick up some very important points for themselves.
And Buriram's out, Jordan. It's actually looking quite sour for them, really, as a team. 8th, 8th, 12th, 10th, and now 16th is sort of the form guide for them over the last 5 games. They actually started really hot on day 1, 4th place, 4 kills, 2nd place, 10 kills. And since then, it's been just nothing from them. And they're just sliding down the leaderboard game by game. So not ideal as our Phase 3 circle right on top of Al Pozo. The Al Pozo fields, though, still in play. Team Bliss looked like they might just change direction over to that way. Glory's knocked down. That's by Ninja 2K. In fact, a lot of long-range knocks taking place here over the back end of Phase 2, and now to start Phase 3 as well. No surprise with the way that the circle has been shifting. Glorious will get finished off. Poochill's helping him out there by just pushing Ninja away, but Glorious does die in the end. Bleeds out. 2 kills for Day Trade. Not bad. Inside of Al Pozo. If they're going to make a run at Cerberus, it needs to start here, and it's a good start.
Yeah, I mean, Cerberus have got a long way to go to get inside of the zone here. And it's not going to be an easy run either. They're going to have to go through a bunch of teams. GE still picking up some points here and there. So even despite the fact that they have lost Glories early on, they're keeping that scoreboard ticking over. Shen is looking for a little bit of fun, but Utah hanging around could be a problem. Shen will have heard Utah. That's pretty much confirmed by the way that he is looking, but Utah seems to have a pretty good idea of where Shen might be as well. That nade is a very good one. Doesn't quite land for the killing blow, but softens him up.
Getting a bit of help from Sophia, and with those last shots there from Sophia putting off the nade usage of and to help out Shen. And yeah, Utah wasn't able to really get that nade thrown over, although Shen has been found elsewhere. Long-range shot. It's Haisaki for Cerberus, spotting him just prone. It's all falling apart for SGD. And Yuta, yeah, he's caught onto that, and he's obviously heard the shots. He's seen the knock and the kill feed. That is amazing game sense and awareness. Just peeks over, claims the kill. So Cerberus get nothing for that, but at the very least, one of their direct rivals in SGD do lose another player, and only Sophia remains. Simon continues to have a few shots. It's a good start for Genius Esports. It's a horrible start for SGD.
Well, I will just point out, with regard to that little pushover, I think Zest also has a bit of an eagle eye position on or what was Shen's position, so he might have combed that across as well. He's very, very far to the south, but he's on top of a massive hill, and he's providing overwatch for the GE lads. Either way, Cerberus, they don't get that point. Now they've got a bit of attention drawn in the direction of MSC. Skeet is a little isolated, but he does have a nice valley to drive through. He'll be safe to rejoin the team. Maybe
I mean, always just worth taking those shots, isn't it? You just never know, and you kind of have to shoot to find out. Skeet actually does get through, did take a little bit of damage. 10 seconds away from Phase 4. And yeah, I mean, you look at the sort of players left alive, 53. Probably about right, considering Circle finish, a City finish with this Circle, but also a couple of hardships. And yeah, this goes towards those Al Pozo fields. Yeah, Team Bliss obviously pretty content with the way this may play out. I would start to think, though, it could be a trap. If this shifts back to Al Pozo, then it could be difficult to make your way out of those hay bale positions. So we'll see how they elect to play this one. But for Phase 4, obviously it's Al Pozo or bust for the majority of teams.
Needs to be very careful he doesn't run into Team Bliss going down that crater. I know it's a nice spot to play from, and that's why I kind of think it could be okay for Team Bliss if they can clear out this side of the zone. There's obviously a lot going on around them. Oh, what's going on here? Inside and Monty. Oh, it's not quite death from above for either of them. It's death from the flank. Jowman and Job Jab able to find a knock apiece, and in the blink of an eye, it's gone all wrong for Team Bliss. It started so well, but MSC right on top of them. Pretty much going to find their mark. Great nade, though, from Mirage. Keeps it alive for Team Bliss. Insight is finished off. Bryn will drive across as quickly as possible to try to save Monty. It's not going to happen, though, because J-End has gone through for the third party. Team Bliss, they do defeat MSC, but they'll lose 2 members in doing so. 3 now, potentially.
Big bounce on that nade, and Genius not able to find a couple of kills there with it. Pushing in late, looking to sort of clean up the mess there. Haisaki, speaking of pushing in, right onto Nurans and finds the kill for Day Trade. They lose 1. That's not ideal in their quest to conquer Cerberus. Zest gets rid of Mirage. 1 left now for Team Bliss. So from a maybe somewhat decent circle shift to elimination. 14th place for the Flowers. They go down. And obviously for Genius Esports, they can take their spot for the time being, though. Here comes AAP. It's going to be Deja Vu rocking up here once again. Same place, maybe somewhat of a similar outcome. Mad Dog, Nan, left standing. Utah's gone, same with Simon T. It is chaos, it is APAC.
What am I watching at the moment? Like, I know this is a good position, but I didn't expect 3 or 4 teams to just send it. That might have been the failure on behalf of Team Bliss. They saw it, they thought, yeah, this is not a bad spot. We'll set up here. They didn't really expect this many teams to just decide to try to take up residence there as well. And it's been a death sentence for pretty much everyone that has ended up in that crater.
But it's bizarre, though. You've got El Pozo. You've got safe options, Jordan. Maybe not glamorous, maybe not luxurious, but you've got a safe option in El Pozo. Why are you sending it to this ditch? I get it. It's not a bad ditch, but there's 3 teams fighting there.
It's not bad if you end up being that one team on this side of the zone. If there's anyone behind you, it's going to be awful, and that's kind of why things have been really problematic. You do still have Icarus that are across all the way, as you can see here, actually. Great shot of the minimap with shots on that particular spot. So, either way, no team really happy with it, and I think that's enough of that. We can shelve that conversation for the moment as we do head north. This is kind of where I'm also sort of like, yeah, look, once it gets to this point, you can actually kind of play that, but it's a little bit too late for that now. Even for Archangel Predator, they're down to just the 2 players, so
yeah,
hasn't gone too well for him.
Not a bad spot now, isn't it? It's quite safe because there's just no other teams left. I guess the last man standing will reap the rewards, and that being Archangel Predator. That's also, though, implying if Icarus don't make the same kind of push towards that location, and they've had eyes on that spot, they've been able to see what's going on there, and they may actually feel like they could be the last team to clean up AAP. 4 players at the ditch, watching outside El Pozo, get a decent shift towards them once again, maybe phase 6, phase 7, and who knows, they may think that that could be the winning spot, because we all know El Pozo is just going to be completely RNG at this point, Jordan. Running out of buildings, running into buildings. Any of these city finishes, so difficult to predict who's going to come out ahead. And replay of this shot onto Mirage. Those are just tilting. When you're in a vehicle trying to rotate, push into a different position, and you just get knocked out and without even able to sort of fire back.
He hits the hard one, but he misses the 2 easy ones. Sometimes it do be like that. And exactly what you were talking about, Icarus, they have decided, yeah, I mean, we know that there's only 2 players over in this ditch. Y8 has been knocked out of his vehicle or fallen out of his vehicle, so he's dead. And Mad Dog,
oh no,
they haven't seen Mad Dog.
Why they've gone straight past him? This ditch is cursed at the moment. So they lose Mad Dog, but Nan's still alive. FP's down. Nade goes right over the top of AT's head. Nan's gone. AT lands his nade. They lose Y8, but now AT, he's got Cerberus somehow at his back. They've got to find a very long revive onto JN, who is inside of the circle. But again, chaos ensuing at that ditch. Making their way out now. New generation, though. It's a double knockdown from 2 different teams. The push inside of El Pozo. Really just as dangerous as that ditch. It's so risky moving from building to building when there's so many teams still left alive.
The Arena quietly having a little bit of a better time in this game. They pick up a large portion of those frags, now up to 3, keeping themselves with a healthy 4. The only other team, actually, is the Origami Orangutans that have 4 players alive. They've been kind of flying under the radar a little bit, but they're sitting in the center of the zone. They are set up in some buildings. They're just chilling, keeping their heads down and hoping to play for the win, I dare say. I'm amazed that Cerberus is doing as well as they are. They've got 4 kills. They've still got a couple of players alive. And this is the problem. Right, when you're trying to catch a team like Cerberus, unless you've got the God aim, the God nade from Pete, you know, they're still going to keep that scoreboard ticking over. They're going to get some points. They get into, were they in the placements? No, they just missed out on placements, but they get 4 kill points out of what was looking like a horrible game for them. So, yeah, I mean, they've done well, I think, all things considered there, Cerberus.
Big nade from good old Pete. Just in case you forget his name, he is Pete. And a good position as well for PMA here, actually, Jordan, when you kind of look at it there on that map feed. So we'll see what they can sort of accomplish from that spot. Icarus, of course, kind of the winners of the ditch, which is not even inside of the circle anymore. It did need a little bit of a shift to go its way for phase 6 to, I guess, remain, but not to be. And now you kind of have to make the move from here. Where do you go? Do you go into the city? Which, if you do that, you kind of should have just maybe done that in the first place. A little while ago. Day Trade, of course, only have the 3 players. As you said before, Orangutan and E-Arena, the only 2 that have all 4 players left alive.
Take a look at this nade, I assume, from Pete.
Yeah.
Nice,
big nade.
Nice toss, isn't it? Perfectly cooked. That's really the difference maker in the vast majority of nades. Normally, like, if you don't cook that correctly, it just bounces sails past.
Yep.
Perfectly cooked from Pete, and I think that is that's the big difference maker. Icarus are on the move. They fought well and hard for that crater, but Circle moved away from them, and that's a
Ninja.
really nice spray. Ninja got the headshot. Levi's helped out as well. AT finished off. And
Oh, no.
doesn't look particularly good for the rest of Icarus either.
Yeah, and I guess in hindsight now, when you look at that ditch position at the time, it seemed great, but pushing out of it is almost impossible. When you've got these teams that have these high ground advantages, looking down, you're trying to rotate out, you're just basically free real estate to shoot at. You know, PMA, should they be worrying about a team pushing onto them? Probably not. Maybe an E-Arena that doesn't want to push into day trade and tries to wrap south, but even then, I don't think so. I think they kind of just smoke the road here, cross into the building of day trade. Might be all that they have, unless they really want to push onto PMA. But it's probably not the prime real estate to go to. But 8 teams alive, placement points on offer. 23 players left, closing in on the 25-minute mark here of our second match of the night. And Expendables have 5 points, now into the top 8 as well. You know, one of our teams to keep an eye on when it comes to those PGC points, Jordan. So having a good game here. But more importantly, with Cerberus out, 85 points, a bit of a target marker now for day trade if they can get more from this game.
Yeah, day trade's really got to be licking their lips at this prospect. They have a good position. Kind of depends on where that circle shift is going to come through. If it goes south, they'll be happy. If it goes north, probably not so much. But if they can find a way to get a win, they're going to be really in striking distance of Cerberus. And they're also going to put themselves a little bit above the rest of the pack. That's not too bad for day trade. But you'd have to say they're sort of clinging onto the edge now, and they're going to have to work hard to deal with E-Arena, who's going to rotate in past them, and PMA. It's going to be a busy southern side of the zone. They much would have preferred a shift to come a little bit closer down to them rather than to go north away from them.
Well, they're on 5, and the Orangutans very happy with this circle shift here for Phase 7. Our bottom 2, Jordan. Both teams in the bottom 2. Of course, they're on 5, only got Reseda Jr. and Exquisite left alive, so just the duo, but a chance for the Orangutans to really capitalize on this game. 4 kills already, 4 players alive. One of just 2 teams that have 4 players alive from our remaining 8, and they've got arguably the best position to really capitalize here, get themselves off maybe the bottom of the standings, and launch themselves into a decent day here for day 2 of PCS7 APAC. Well, PMA, they were happy to play the south side for Phase 6. It has unfortunately gone away from them for Phase 7. They'll have to push through day trade. Day trade also have to deal with E-Arena. There's a fair chance here, despite only having 3 players, that they just rack up the kills because E-Arena have to push out. Smokes will now go to try and cross this road. A chance for day trade to collect some points.
They need to be pretty careful that they do actually get a bit of damage done on this cross. If E-Arena get all 4 members into that building, even though there is a nice crossfire established for day trade, it certainly could be problems for them because they've got PMA to worry about as well. They're going to be coming in from the side, and it's really just Belmoth that's kind of watching the southern part of that building. He's done a good job already onto Pete. Knows there's another player there as well. Molly's going to go too deep. But as long as Belmoth survives, that's the key. That's the most important thing. He cannot afford to be dropping here. All of day trade have to be perfect, and they're fighting a battle now on 2 fronts.
Oh, the spray. Akita gets the down, gets the kill, and that's the Expendables gone in 8th. Big kills for the Orangutans, slowly creeping up that point tally to just lift themselves up off the bottom of the standings. Pete, though, does also get lifted back up in that smoke for PMA. Exquisite, seeing if he can find some points. He did get that down. Sapnik surely will get finished off. No,
he'll get
gets behind the fence line. He's fine. Yeah, and day trade might be able to be the benefactors there.
Origami Orangutans actually the ones to pick up that kill, courtesy of Rain. E-Arena, it was always going to be a tough run, but now they've lost 2 players on it so far. You have to imagine it's not going to get any easier. They're in the back of that dump truck. They will get a res, but dare say their run is probably at an end. I think they've probably used the vast majority of their smoke, so as soon as they leave cover, they'll be in a bit of trouble. I am kind of surprised that day trade didn't actually end up picking up any kills in that entire engagement. They didn't get a finish onto PMA or E-Arena. Both the knocks that they got were rezzed inside of smokes.
Oh, is this going to be flash out and then swing? Pete has been blinded, but no one actually pushed out on that. Pete holds his position. They have spotted him. I think his shoulder's sticking through the bricks, and Yeah, that's a bit of an easy kill in the end, so that makes it 3 kills now for Daytrade. In fairness, they've only got the 3 players, so in that little exchange not too long ago, they probably didn't want to go too overzealous, too aggressive. KMF brought back up, but for how much longer? Daytrade, you would think, coming in from the side, should be able to collect both of these 2 kills. Balmoth leads the way. Smokes go out. It does obscure his vision momentarily. The orangutans, though, they've got the higher ground, they've got the position, they've got such a big chance of finding the chicken dinner here in match 7. Getting closer off the bottom of the standings. They just need to find a couple more kills. Kang with a double from the roof, from the top. They go to 10 kills in this game. 16th place for not much longer for the orangutans.
Yeah, double digits secured. It sometimes is like that, isn't it? You just can't get anything done, and then you just have this one massive game. Daytrade are in real trouble now. Belmoth is going to be finished off. Poochills as well. And they will be making a pretty swift exit. The zone's going to be pushing at their back. There's just one member up left for them. Rossiter Jr. did get picked back up in that meanwhile. I saw he got knocked.
Oh, it's Kang
back
again.
to 2. They have hotspot though, don't they?
Yeah, a new generation emerging here for OCE PUBG. With the likes of Akita and Kang leading the way. Rain, of course, one of the older heads now. KM9 going down to Kang. Make that 7 kills for Kang now. And a massive opportunity for the orangutans. They really are in pole position. From the future do have 3 players, but their position, Jordan, it is not ideal. And really, they should just be lamb to the slaughter here. The orangutans should very well be moments away from finding their first chicken dinner of PCS7 APAC.
Well, they still have a little bit to contend with from the future. Not the easiest of teams to dispatch of, unless your name apparently is Akita, who has just dealt them a swift blow indeed. It's down to only man. And he is cowering away behind those smokes. The kills well and truly going to be finished off by Origami Orangutans as well.
They've played this so well. 15 kills in a city finish. They've played their position perfectly, utilized the high ground or impossible when they sense that it's safe to do so. And they are just farming this lobby. And they understand now that they're just moments away from recording a massive victory for this team that could just light a spark for the rest of PCS7 APAC. Exquisite with the nade. Do they play spoil here, though? Theraton 5 also at a similar time lifting themselves off the bottom of the standings too, sort of riding the orangutan way. But how do they get down from here? Not a lot of time. Kang inside of the Molotov gets taken down by Exquisite. Maybe there's still more to this tale to be played out.
I just don't see a world where Theraton 5 can get out of this building safely. There should be no world. Exquisite's got the knock onto Rain as well.
Oh, no.
How on earth? I mean, we haven't seen anything from Rosita Jr., but if he knocks oh no! This is not possible. Surely not. Oh God, it was in their hands. Origami Orangutans. And now it's a 2-on-1 for Akita. He has worked so hard for this. 15 kills, but Theraton 5, they play spoiler. That is illegal.
My gosh! Hands on the heads of Exquisite. And Patapong's thinking, what has just happened? What have these guys just done? The duo. In some ways, I counted them out. Didn't think it was possible in a 2 versus 4. But boy, did they just play so well at the end there. Theraton 5 launching themselves up the leaderboard. That is a monster victory. A massive chicken dinner. And like the orangutans, maybe they can kick on from here. Maybe this is the moment where PCS7 APAC becomes their playground. What a win.
Yeah, I gotta say, I think for the Origami Orangutans, they really need to have a good look back at that one, because that should have been an unlosable scenario. They had control of the roof, they had control of everything, and Theraton 5 are coming out of a building into them. Granted, Exquisite hits the nuttiest of shots. I think it was while he was dropping, he got that second knock. I believe it was onto Rip. There's not much you can do about that, I suppose, but by and large, I mean, they should never have been allowed to even get out of the building at all. Still, very, very
PUBG,
impressive
mate.
win. That's a very impressive
PUBG.
win.
And 2v4s and any kind of, generally it's like a 1vx, but I think a 2vx is also fine if it's 2v4. So, I mean, they played that perfectly, and they didn't obviously give in. How many times do we see sort of players play almost to preserve and sort of hide? I think Theraton 5 played that perfectly, and, you still have to give massive plaudits to the orangutans. Yes, they didn't win the game, Jordan, but what was it, 15 kills? 15. Second place, that has done them absolute wonders. It's mainly now for them, how do you respond from, many people will be like, oh, they should have won that, they choked it, whatever, who cares? It doesn't really matter that much. In the end, you're talking about maybe 4-6 points difference here for what was already a large game points-wise. For Theraton 5, though, that's got to just fill them with so much belief moving forward that Theraton 5 can play, they can compete, that they can come up big in these clutch moments. They've just shown us there. So I'm very curious to see how both teams sort of continue to kick on for the rest of the day.
Well, it kind of goes back to a couple of things that we were talking about. At the start of the day, I said Theraton 5, I felt like they massively underperformed yesterday. They're a much better team than where they were situated, which was around 14th place, I think, off the top of my head. Now they've managed to jump their way all the way up to 6th, and it also ties into what we were talking about at the start of that game, where the middle of the pack was so tight. There was only 6 points between 8th and 15th, and obviously off the back of that win, Theraton 5 have, as I've said, gone up into 6th. Origami Orangutans have gone off the bottom of the table into 10th place. So it's still very early days in PCS7, right? You look at the scoreboard, you think, oh, it's going to be tough for these guys. They're down in 16th, whatever. But when you really take into the context, actually how tight things are across the board, games like this, 21 points, 18 points, they make a massive world of difference.
Yeah, and then when you kind of look at the rest of the lobby here, obviously we've kind of spoken about the Orangutans and Theraton 5, but, the fact that third place only got 8 points, it's a little surprising. Usually you kind of double digits there, and then Arena 7, and then it's like 6, 6, 6, 5, 5, 4, 4. So a massive spread of points for the teams in the sort of middle portion, really, of that particular game. And then obviously the top two soaking up a large majority of it. But Exquisite, 5 kills, 62% kill proportion, almost 1,000 damage as well, Jordan. Talk about your player of the match. And, sometimes you just look at the numbers and think, wow, that was a big game. But when you also take into account the moment at the end, down 2v4, you add that into the equation, and it's just a monster performance for Theraton 5. It's got them into the top 6 as well. 38 points, and now puts them in contention really with the teams directly above them. Arena, AAP, SGD, Day Trade, for example. The other thing to take out of that game, none of the teams directly below Cerberus had a good game. So they keep their point advantage despite they themselves not having a major game either.
Well, that's what I was sort of saying when they were sort of pottering along. They got themselves 4 kills. They didn't get into the placement points, but as long as you're getting four points every game when you're in the lead, it just makes your lead even more unassailable than what it already is. It's not an unassailable lead though for Cerberus. I think that does have to be reiterated, but we kind of need to see Day Trade maybe converting one of these games. Like they've had a 3rd and a 5th. They've been in good enough positions to think that they could potentially get themselves a win. If they keep putting themselves in those kinds of spots, then yeah, definitely they're going to be in the conversation. We've got one more Miramar game today, which I think is probably going to be quite important for Day Trade. They do tend to perform a little bit better on Miramar. We've seen that so far this season. So they probably need to get it done here in Game 3 and then slow things down for Erangel later on.
Big moment from Theraton 5. That's what PCS is all about, those big moments, and we'll see how they are going to be able to kick on from that. For now, we go to a break. When we do come back, though, Miramar on the other side.
Now I'm out for blood. Knock at your door. Knock at your door. Knock at your door. Knock at your door. Now I'm out for blood.
All clear on the roof. Heading back down.
Roger. Hurry up. We need to move.
Just make sure I don't take a bullet in the back.
Looking good. Keep it steady.
I hear footsteps. I got a bad feeling.
Enemy spotted. Move! Move!
You're going up next time.
There won't be a next time.
Yeah. I only got one question. So is there on
Outside, inside, we don't stop. Global, worldwide, we don't stop. From the bottom to the top, we don't stop. From the birds to the block, we don't stop. Outside, inside, we don't stop. Global, worldwide, we don't stop. From the bottom to the top, we don't stop. From the birds to the block, we don't stop. Outside, inside, we don't stop. Global, worldwide, we don't stop. From the bottom to the top, we don't stop. From the birds to the block, we don't stop. Outside, inside, we don't stop. Global, worldwide, we don't stop. From the birds to the block, we don't stop.
All clear on the roof. Heading back down.
Roger. Hurry up. We need to move.
Just make sure I don't take a bullet in the back.
Looking good. Keep it steady.
I hear footsteps. I got a bad feeling.
Enemy spotted. Move! Move!
You're going up next time.
There won't be a next time.
Yeah. I only got one question. So is there on
Outside, inside, we don't stop. Global, worldwide, we don't stop. From the bottom to the top, we don't stop. From the birds to the block, we don't stop. Outside, inside, we don't stop. Global, worldwide, we don't stop. From the bottom to the top, we don't stop. From the birds to the block, we don't stop. Outside, inside, we don't stop. Global, worldwide, we don't stop. From the bottom to the top, we don't stop. From the birds to the block, we don't stop. Outside, inside, we don't stop. Global, worldwide, we don't stop. From the birds to the block, we don't stop.
Some updates to Destin, a new vehicle, and special new skins. All this and more as we dive into the Update 19.2 patch report. First up, Destin is getting some additional cover in several areas, as well as more cell towers, ascenders, and fuel pumps. You'll also now notice the passage of time and even shifting weather patterns in your Destin games. If your match is going long and you're starting to feel hangry, look out for the newest Battlegrounds vehicle, the food truck. This sturdy vehicle holds a driver and passenger, while up to 2 others serve up hot food and even hotter lead in the back. There's also new heavy stock in the game to try out on your favorite stock-slotted weapon. You may remember us talking about an animation refresh some time back. This update, you'll start to see the fruits of those efforts with new animations for all weapon operations and player motions. Check them out and let us know what you think. For those looking to really pimp their ride, we've added new special vehicle skins to the game. Our first set will turn your run-of-the-mill Coupe RB into a sleek and sexy McLaren GT. Customized paint, rims, and even your brakes. These customizations can be crafted in the workshop or by collecting rewards from the new McLaren Crafters Pass. But before you go betting your pink slip, while it may look like a McLaren, it still performs like a regular old coupe. There's quite a bit more to learn about these updates and more, so check out the patch notes for full details. Update 19.2 is here, so drop in, wax up that new McLaren, and serve up some chicken dinner, extra bullets. We'll see you on the battlegrounds.
Well, when we last left off, it was a massive, massive moment. A big win for Theratol 5. The Orangutans so close, Jordan, to finding their first win for PCS7 APAC. Not to be, still a big game from them nonetheless. And what this has really done is we don't really have sort of a bottom team at the moment. From basically the top 6 or 7 maybe have some kind of a lead, and then it's like just everyone else is like either 20 to 30 points.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. I mean, like, obviously by definition we do have a bottom team, but realistically speaking, any of the teams at the moment are kind of still in the mix for at least a middle of the pack spot after this game, if they place well, which normally when we're sort of 7-8 rounds in, you're like, all right, well, there's one team that's kind of on 5 points or 10 points, and then the next lowest is, yeah, not really too close to them at all. But yeah, actually all the teams this season have been at least having one decent game for themselves in some way, shape, or form, right? Which is maybe still not anything to write home about if you've only had one, and like your one good game, I guess in the case of NGE, for example, is a third place with one kill. But, you know, you're getting points here and there, and so it's a positive sign in the case of at least we have a fairly competitive field rather than just one or two teams kind of running away with everything.
To summarize it, every single team, every single one, has at least finished in the top 3 once. That is remarkable. Through 7 rounds, every single team, all 16, have had a top 3 finish. Now, that sounds nice, but then when you kind of look at New Generation, outside of their particular top 3 finish, which was the 3rd place, by the way, 11, 13, 9, 13, 8, 10. So, you know, it's all about the best teams having that consistency. Being able to do it for more matches makes you the better team. I know, shocker. And so for those teams that, yes, they've had the one game here or there, it's just being able to find a way to replicate that. You know, when you kind of look at the Orangutans, of course, they've kind of been the last team to find that top 3 finish, have kind of struggled prior to that finish. 16th, 16th, 14th, 7th, for example. So are they now going to just go back to that? Or do they kick on? Do they sort of grow from that last 7th round, 2nd place finish, 15 kills? Can they sort of kick on? We'll see what happens, because it's easier said than done, Jordan. For the majority of teams, they've had that sort of game, and then they've just gone back to the way that they were playing beforehand.
Yeah, well, my eyes are quite squarely going to remain on day trade for this game, as I did mention before we went into the break. Miramar going to be an important map for them. It's always been a little bit more successful, particularly this season for day trade, the Miramar games, and so we will see whether or not that is going to persist here, and if they can pick up a bunch of points and put themselves into striking distance nearby with Cerberus. They're on 5. Watching them at the start of the round, very, very surprising that is the case, given they were in a 4-on-2, but they won it. So you'll take it.
Yeah, and I'm just kind of scanning the leaderboards that we've gone through so far. So obviously now we are on our final Miramar game before heading back to Erangel and kind of trying to take a look and see where teams are finding their success. And I got to say, if Daytrade don't finish well here, I am a little bit worried for them on Erangel. So Miramar's been far better for them in terms of results. 4th, 1st, 3rd, 5th, whereas Erangel 10th, 6th, and 5th. So nothing too crazy. Of course, they're in the top 2, but you know, when you go and look at Cerberus, they've been able to do it really largely on both maps, and that's then a little bit concerning, especially on Erangel, where they had back-to-back wins to start day number 1. Our kill leaders, though, from the 7th match, and really no surprise to see Theraton 5 and the Orangutans leading the way. Look at Kang, though, 7 kills and almost 1,100 damage. That is massive numbers. When you consider the overall kill leader graphic that we had before, Jordan, I think 5th was like 11 kills, so Kang's almost gone and just matched that in one game, and a bit of a replay of our previous match and the final standing. And Kang was the big player, though. This was the big moment. He had to sort of protect his position, and look at that Molotov from Xgrazit. Forces him out of it, forces him out into the open. It's just a calculated play.
No, watch this from Xgrazit. This, I think, is the difference maker. When he jumps out and kills Rip, so I don't even know how he does this.
Oh,
it's
amazing.
Rain. It's Rain, not Rip. But regardless, like, how is he getting that kill?
Flashed him. Throws out the flash first, and then, yeah, I mean, look, still, even just jumping out and landing those shots, so difficult. But I'm so glad we've been able to sort of watch back the replay, more so from the view of Theraton 5 here, because they really turned it on. You know, there's people out there that are like, oh, how did Orangutans lose that? They choked it. No. Theraton 5, the duo there, played out of their minds to win that game at the end. Full credit has to go to them. Sometimes it's easy to kick the loser, to sort of just put the pain into them and be like, oh, you guys lost, how did you lose that, yada, yada. Give the credits to the winner. Theraton 5 played that perfectly at the end, deserved the win. And now, I guess my eyes will be fixated on them here in match number 8, along with the Orangutans, to see how they back it up.
It's nice to see you've turned a new leaf, Sanox. You're such a nice guy now.
I'm getting old, mate.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened. Anyway, zone shift is a bit of an interesting one. I think worth mentioning, we haven't really focused on those phase 1 zone shifts too much tonight, but down toward the southwest and a lot of that unassailable western cliff in the circle, which is unplayable terrain. So actually, this is quite an interesting one to see how this does play out. I think this is going to be quite a difficult zone to work with. Obviously, a lot of teams going to be coming in again from the same side of the zone. It's sort of similar to what we were talking about last game, where, you know, if you get a central circle shift, you've got teams coming in from all 360 degrees. Now you've once again kind of got it from like 180, maybe in this case 240 degrees. PMA going to lose a player. He did have some heroics last game, but unfortunately not going to be the case this time around.
Yeah, unfortunate for Pete. Had that really, really good double kill nade from the last game. Timed it well. You kind of dissected the timing of that nade perfectly, Jordan. And yeah, it's a difference maker. Well, you know, you saw it bounce, but he cooked it enough that the bounce didn't really matter. Orangutans on the move, getting by AAP. Do you take into account the circle, though? The circle positioning on that last game, helping out, realistically, both Theraton 5 and the Orangutans. That's a big portion as to why they sort of found themselves in the position that they did. Now, yes, they went on and capitalized, but you know, we kind of have our first circle here over towards Death Valley, as I like to call it, just north of Valadamar. It's going to be a little bit more tricky. There has to be more rotating going on, and we're seeing that here.
I mean, definitely it is a fair point, but something that I always say is like, yeah, you're going to get circles that do favor you. You're going to get circles that don't favor you. But what separates the good teams from the bad are going to be the ones that are actually able to capitalize on those circles that do favor them, as Rain goes driving into a bag of bricks. But either way, yeah, I mean, the important point is that when you do get that opportunity, you do take advantage of it. And so credit where it's due. They were able to do that. This time, though, they're going to have to work a little bit harder. And I think that's also a fair point. So let's see if teams like E-Arena and Daytrade and, I guess, in a sense, PMA and SGD are going to be able to capitalize on this more favorable Phase 1 shift. Unfortunately for PMA, they are down a player from the outset. So they have to do it with 3. Not the end of the world. We've seen even
Solitaire.
From Theraton 5, they can do well with just the 3. What is Solitaire? What? What are you talking about?
Oh, sorry. Is that another esport video game competitor? Solitaire. New generation, of course. Down the bottom at the moment now, Jordan. They were the unfortunate benefactors of the rise of both Theraton 5 and Orangutans from the previous game. They now find themselves in last place, 24 points through the first 7 matches. And for MS Chonburi, a little bit higher up, 38 points. But you kind of look at those placement points, and that's a damning number. It's not a good sign. They need to start staying alive a bit longer.
They do, but at the end of the day, they're also still kind of ticking along. Like, I think right now, it's hard to be particularly negative of any of the teams that's 30 points plus. And in fact, really, for any team. Like, everyone's still kind of in the mix here. It's not as if anyone's out of the realms of working into it, but we'll hold that thought for the moment because Genius have been crashed by Archangel Predator. That is a very nice molly. You're indeed correct. He is going to be done and dusted, and yeah, I think GE will be a little bit disappointed that this is going as it has. Chloris is going to drop off the roof. That's ballsy. And catches CJ for his trouble. Evil Patrick, I believe that is outside.
He's seen him
very low.
Yeah, Clarice did spot him.
What's
it? Loses out anyway. And yeah, Teddy's now rocking up as well. Trick behind him from the future. Evil Patrick probably dead too. Molotov goes in, avoids it for a little bit, but not too long. And it's Archangel Predator that go out in last place. And Simon from behind gets the down onto Trick, still watching from above. Now, Yuta making his way out for Genius Esports. They've got 4 kills. Can they find more? Probably not from here. Even if you get the down onto Teddy, you're not going to be able to convert, just like he wasn't able to convert onto Trick, who has been revived.
Theraton 5's watching.
So, yeah, and Theraton 5 watching close by as well. But, yeah, very unfortunate for Archangel Predator. And this is kind of what we maybe spoke about in the last couple of games ago where, you know, you can have those really, really big games where they won, they got 13 kills, and since then, 11th and 16th. So not backing it up, not having that consistency, and that's going to cost them in the long run.
I feel as though they are kind of playing a bit of a sink or swim style, though. I mean, we go back and look at the last game, too, where they crashed onto the crater with absolutely no information. It's kind of the same thing that is to be said here, right? They're in another really early engagement where they don't have a huge amount of information. They're kind of just sending it a little bit, and that's not working out for them. So maybe a bit of a slower approach could be a little bit of a better option. Simon and Yuta as well. This is another thing for GE. It's another thing I picked up on is that they do have a very sort of split play style, and I think that's kind of costing them a little bit. In game 1, Simon T was isolated away from that fight against Theraton 5. In this fight, a couple of the members, you know, they're not isolated away from the fight from Archangel Predator, but are they getting as much impact as they could have from a position like that? Maybe not. They're obviously getting a lot of info, and that's helpful, and they're getting some pot shots, but when you get crashed, you know, you lose a couple of your members like that, you have to say, is it worth it? Yes, 4 kills for 2 players lost. Maybe you can make an argument that there was enough done there to make it valuable, but I don't know. They don't go on to win this game from here, and that's, I think, a big problem.
Simon's still having these pot shots. I mean, why not? But not really going to gain too much other than, you know, ruining those helmets, forcing the opposition to use some of their medical supplies earlier than they would probably like to. We do get our phase 2 circle shift.
It's a good one for Buriram and for NGE. And it's actually probably a good one for all involved, to be honest. If you would have seen it go more central or back over toward the west again, then it just ends up being a very difficult zone to play with all that unplayable terrain involved. But this is not too bad. Unless your name's Icarus. I'm not sure why they're down on Los Higos Island. Either way, Ranger X has got himself into an engagement, and Patop Pong is the trade. 1-for-1 here against E-Arena.
Oh, they've lost 2 now here, Theraton 5, and the other 2 actually still sort of rotating in, and now they're going to make that decision. Rasias Jr. and X-Chris, the dynamic duo from the last game.
Yep, they'll have to do it again.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I'm assuming Theraton 5 didn't have the intel on this compound to know that there was actually players in here. No. I do wonder if E-Arena were actually playing a little bit of a silent hold, not peeking, not prodding out, and maybe Theraton 5 got the wrong idea because they sent 2 in really early before the other 2. A little bit of a mess, poor execution for Theraton 5, and not a way to back up the chicken dinner from the last game.
This is very interesting from Yuta. He's just hanging around, and he's out in, you know, no man's land, really. If he gets a timing onto FTF, he can do something for sure, but as you can see, there's cross shots coming in his direction, and I dare say he's not really going to get too much done there, so bit of an interesting decision. Feels like he's just trying to be a little bit too ambitious with that one. Obviously, he does still have Simon up there to give him a bit of info, but... So yeah, this one goes for Icarus. They're going to drive straight past Team Bliss, who don't quite have a bridge camp set up there. I mean, I would be surprised if they... Well, if they even knew that Icarus was across on the Los Ticos Island. I mean, they may have done a bit of scouting and have got a bit of intel, but I don't think you'd really be expecting to see a team coming over the bridge at that point. So no real reason to expect a bridge camp. But Icarus are across happy, which is surprising, in a sense.
Still no movement from Genius Esports holding up on this rock foundation and keeping the pressure on from the future. It's the only bit of intel that they have, and in some ways you get that down onto Teddy, force one of these three to sort of leave that building. Who knows, maybe they could create something, but I mean, in my eyes, I kind of look at it this way. They have to move. In fact, they have to move in the next 40 seconds, Jordan. So I'm not sure why Simon is still sitting there. All right, he's got to actually get moving. I mean, in fairness, from the future also have to get moving too. So I guess they're playing the chicken game. Who's going to move first? In the end, they do get the down onto Trick. Teddy, though, of course, does not have to move. He can sit and he can obviously put pressure back the way onto Genius Esports. But it looks like Delta's gone back actually to maybe go for the save. Doesn't get there in time and just takes some of the supplies with him, and he'll make his way out. But this is just a bizarre little exchange between these two teams.
Yeah.
Really not a whole lot to gain if you are from the future. And for Genius Esports, they've already lost 2 players, so it's just a matter of what can we get from an already bad situation.
Yeah. I mean, this is exactly what U2 was looking for. We talked about it a little bit earlier. It was a little bit of an ambitious kind of sneaky play that it could definitely work out if from the future are caught off guard, and that's exactly what happened. And I kind of agree with your sentiment that GE are not looking to win this game anymore. They're just looking to try and pick up as many points on the way out as they possibly can, and what better way than camping a team on their exit in a position that you really wouldn't expect to be seeing someone in. So that's worked out nicely. PMA do still have the 3 players alive. They were the first team to lose a member in this game. They've been holding it down since then relatively okay. I think in the case of Origami Orangutans, some confidence and some lack of confidence through from that last game. Bit of both. And Deraton 5 is lucky to get past there without losing a player, I will say. You see to Junior, he's going to have to pull up pretty soon. His vehicle's in trouble. He's got to run.
Good timing to get out of that, though, without losing his life. Of course, only the duo for Deraton 5, which, you know, they were the duo in the last game as well, but what worked out for them was the circle position and the circle lock inside of El Pozo. They do find themselves in an okay position now with that rotation, but it's nowhere near as good as they had it in the last game. Phase 3, though, it's definitely blessings right now for Day Trade on top of this hill. And they are really spread out and occupying a very large portion of the center position of the circle. Shen trying to just see if he can find that opening kill. It's going to be, though, Sophia that finds the SGD. Leo in the road. Bit of an off-meta position. Gets punished for it. Van peeks back. Gets the down to Shan successfully. So it's only 2 left for New Generation, but they are putting the hurt into SGD with a bit of help from Day Trade as well. Flash getting that kill. It is a disaster for SGD. 2 games in a row.
I thought that was going to work perfectly for SGD. It looked like Sophia was in an awesome spot to get early damage done, and he did. But then everyone else just fell. I mean, individual aim duels being won by NGE. Obviously, they do suffer a degree of losses for it as well, but they've really cooked the game for SGD as well. So, mutually assured destruction. We love that one. And I think both teams there kind of living in that. Daytrade are happy with it, though. They pick up a free kill. Flash just able to steal one away. Here's an interesting fight. Buriram with a massive 2-2 split. It looks like Team Bliss are taking advantage of that. Canaxi going to get the res onto Nordra, which is good news as far as Buriram is concerned.
No kills yet for Team Bliss, but not through lack of trying. Keeping that pressure on, making sure that they can sort of lock down this position as comfortably as possible. Buriram maybe just trying to wrap in front of them. Do wonder if then Team Bliss may look to try and push a little bit further north as we have the map on our feed now. 9 seconds till phase 4. I just wonder, can Team Bliss find the avenue forward Otherwise, I'm kind of looking at Canaxi and Nordra here, Jordan, and they're just wrapping in front. They may actually get prime position. And yeah, now both teams have to get moving. They have to go very far north. And hello to the Orangutans. They've just got a hard shift. Not bad for them. The Expendables too. Day Trade's not too unhappy. They're still in it, but they would have been thinking they were going to get more of a hard feed for Phase 4. Doesn't go their way. And MS Strawberry and Ladrilla as well, not bad for them either.
This is a very hard zone to play for pretty much everyone involved, though. The fact that you've got 2 hills on either side and then there's a valley in the middle, it sort of means that there isn't really any safe positions unless you're able to control your hill and find a little nook and a little cranny to slink away in. We'll hold that thought for the moment, though, because there is a big fight happening here, and that's a really long spray down from Nordra, but he gets it done in the end.
The replay of that entry from New Generation, and it was Sophia that found the opening kill, but we did not see the angle there of Diane or Young B and what they were able to do there. Shut down SGD. We did see this from Van, who played that pretty well. Shen getting a little bit over aggressive and did get punished for it. Now Nordra, though, has crept up onto the backside of Team Bliss and finally just pops up, gets the down onto Monty with that final bullet. They've already lost Mirage, and now with Monty on the ground, it's only Insight and Bryn for Team Bliss, but Bryn goes for the revive, and Insight will play cover. Not sure why Nordra's by himself, though. Motorbike, get on it and get going, because you've got the rest of your team still intact. Well, at least further ahead, 2 more intact, that is. And, well, a team that's not looking too intact at the moment, Cerberus. And it's been quiet, Jordan. Day 2 has been quiet, just no one punishing them, though.
Very long rotation for a bunch of teams. I mean, you're talking about Cerberus right now. They've actually got 2 members that are in need of a revive. Rosita Jr. able to pick one up, and this is what Theraton 5 really need to be doing at the moment. They're down to just a couple of members. They need to be trying to pick up those
Simon's
cheeky
going to
kills.
run over.
Done so, Simon! Oh, he's a god. He's a madman. He's finished off traded, though. I don't think there's going to be anything there for GE. That res should be coming through. Cerberus down to just Heisaki. And he will be finished off without too much remorse.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. You look at today for Cerberus. 5th, no kills. 9th, 4 kills. And now out in 14th.
Yep.
With 1 kill.
Though, there is still a wrangle, right? And they were a little better on a wrangle yesterday. You said they got it done on both maps, and that is true. But 2 of their wins were on a wrangle yesterday. So maybe there's something to be said for Game 4 and 5 tonight.
Certainly. I mean, they've still got such a large lead, but that's kind of what I'm getting to. It's like Day Trade, SGD.
The gap's closing.
Those teams below Cerberus are just not really putting points on the board. And E-Arena, one of those. And now they've only got one of those. Now none of those. 13th. So 3 of our top 6 or 5 teams, I should say, go on, make that 4. Yeah, only Day Trade left from the top 5.
How has Team Bliss managed to get Bryn in there? I'm not too sure. He should be a dead man, but he's okay for the moment. Day Trade are absolutely loving this situation, though. Exactly as you say, all of their closest competitors are done so, and they're in a premium position to pick up some kill points. They have high ground, they have great scouting opportunities, and they can obviously get a lot of shots down on all the teams fighting below them. They've been picking up a cheeky kill here and there. 5 of them already in this game so far, so really closing that gap onto Cerberus. Bryn does get flashed out and should be pretty much dead here. 777 will finish that one up pretty comfortably in the end. Team Bliss out in 10th. From the future, still have a ways to go.
Holding that bottom spot on the standings as well for Team Bliss. So it's a long way back for them. But when I say that, technically only 20 points away from 5th. So maybe not that long. They just got to get it all to click. And they can find success pretty quickly. We know what that team's capable of. Flash with 5 of the 6 kills for Day Trade. Could this be the game, Jordan, where they really put the pressure onto Cerberus in terms of the overall leaderboard? Teddy making the run through. Rip with the spray. Finally, it's again the orangutans on your screens to give us some entertainment. Sawed-off shotgun for Rip. Teddy, though, the flash, it was perfect. He's completely outplayed him. RIP indeed for Rip. Akita and Kang, the dynamic duo for the orangutans. Molotov thrown in. It lands, it spreads, but Teddy gets away, and he gets away relatively intact as well. He spots Akita. The spray doesn't land, though.
Yeah, Akita and Kang need to work together on this one. Can't be affording to take one-on-one duels, and they've actually got more problems arising from the future, like an armada arrive in the compound. Akita does get that first knock, which will relieve a little bit of that pressure. Finished off by Kang. A nice kill point in the back pocket of Origami Orangutans. But they need a couple of seconds to heal back on up. Kang under a lot of that threat. Nice shots from Akita. I mean, they're looking sharp tonight, the Origami Orangutans. It's just that maybe this is not the fight that they want to be taking.
Nade from Teddy. Well, that actually is Teddy that killed Teddy, so...
Can't believe it. How's that happen?
I don't know how that happens.
We're living
Teddy,
in the Matrix.
oh, he might not be done. Molotov, this one lands. That's going to be Teddy done. Not surviving that. 8th place for PMA. And the kill goes the way for Akita, but watching is Rossiter Jr. So Theraton 5 down to Theraton 1 at the moment, but into the top 6 and not too far away from the top 5. MS Chonburi, 4 players alive, along with the Expendables, and along with Day Trade, who have just quietly gone up to 8 kills this game, Jordan. It's a big one brewing for them.
Nothing quiet about it. You know, they're sitting on top of that mountain, shouting to the world, saying, hey, we'll take a few more kill points. Wouldn't be surprised if Y8 falls prey to Belmoth, or maybe Kang trying to make a crossover from that compound. It's just been easy pickings from Day Trade, hasn't it? And Y8 actually able to secure that kill onto Kang is going to get another point over for Icarus, and also mean the end of Origami Orangutans. Rossiter Jr., he's got a fairly hefty distance to travel.
Good game, though. Good game. Sometimes it's hard to back up those really, really massive games. You go and get, you know, second place, 15 kills.
Yeah.
And they come into this, they get top 8, they get 4 kills. I think that's a very decent game for them and keeps them in the mix for the middle portion of that leaderboard. But I think now all eyes on Day Trade here. How many points can they get? What is that margin going to be going into Erangel?
And Rossiter Jr. keep himself away from the prying eyes in the sky. And not only that, but Icarus also seems like they've got a little bit of a bead on him. AT definitely looking, but yeah, I mean, as I said, probably one of these players is going to fall to Belmoth. And in the end, it's Rossiter Jr. So there goes Theraton 5 in 6th place. But, I mean, all things considered, actually not a bad result for them. Couple of placement points there and a couple of kill points coming through after what was a pretty rough start to the game for them. I have to say, though, this really does feel like it's coming down to just 3 major powers in this game. Day Trade, MSC, and the Expendables. Expendables have got the center position, and arguably probably the best position as well, because both MSC and Day Trade are going to have to come down the hills into them. But with that said, they are also the meat in the sandwich, and that means a lot of teams are looking in their direction. I feel like maybe the run does end here for Day Trade, though. If they get off this hill unscathed, then that feels a little bit illegal to me. Here they go.
Oh, Belmoth getting lit up on that motorbike. Usually the smaller frame, it's a bit hard to hit, especially on the very fast-moving motorbike. But he just got tagged so quickly while pushing down that hill. Forced to stop, forced to heal up. And, well, he's not dead. He does get the heal. And obviously he can get back on that bike. So not too bad. Norans finds a position inside of the next circle here for phase 6. It's not a long-term play. AT with the AWM. Icarus 4 kills this game. Close to getting out of the bottom 4. Same with the Expendables now, really out of that bottom 5 position here with this game. Poo Chills making the run down. You said, Jordan, that if they can get down, there'll be a chance. Well, so far, that's kind of job 1 done. They've made it to the pit stop in my eyes. Next job is to get to basically the Expendables.
Well, they're in the zone for now, so I guess let's just hold our thoughts and see whether or not they're going to get a favorable shift first. That could very well still work out for them. Buriram are relying on Nordra to get himself another placement point or another kill point here. Not in a bad spot to do it, to be honest. I don't think anyone's really caring about this side of the circle. They know Icarus is on the north side. Obviously, MSC and Day Trade well and truly known, and the Expendables as well. Everyone knows where they are, but Buriram's position may be unknown at this point. Circle shift is actually going to favor Day Trade, which is fantastic news if you're a fan of Day Trade. Horrible news if you like MSC. Because they have a very, very unfortunate cross to make. Whereas Day Trade, as you sort of mentioned, they found that pocket. They got themselves halfway down the mountain, and that's actually all they have to do now.
And now MS Chonburi have to make a decision. Where do they go? Do you look to try and crash Icarus? All right, there's less players there, only the 2, so it's a 4 versus 2. Or do you go onto the building of the Expendables? There's a bit more actual building to sort of play around. But then you may be prone to getting shot in the back by Icarus. I think maybe Icarus might be the best play here. Inside of the circle, yes, it's on the edge. but then also sort of away from that meat in the sandwich, like you said before. And yeah, Job Jab has been able to spot this from a while away. Julio and Ski able to get up close because Job Jab really put the pressure on early. Y8's played that as well as he probably could. In the end, it was actually Flash from Day Trade that was looking down above, getting involved. 11 kills now for Day Trade, 71 points, now within 15 points of Cerberus, and able to sort of farm up. And Neuroja was the solo for Buram, gone, now down to our final 3 teams.
Well, you have to say Day Trade are really looking like the team to beat at the moment. They have the high ground advantage on both. The only way this goes wrong for them is if they put a little bit too much attention onto MSC right now. And as I'm watching a little bit of a creep come through from the Expendables, no one from Day Trade seems to be spotting that, which is going to be a problem if Levi's and Ninja can get up on top of him. This grenade doesn't look like it's going to connect onto anything. Levi's is throwing it in the wrong direction. Oh, hang on a second. Puchils. Nah, he'll be all right. But that gives the game away. Day Trade are well and truly now aware that there is a little bit of creep occurring on their mountain. And Puchils has that first knock. It's a great start for Day Trade. Exactly what they need. They do also have to be aware they'll potentially be fighting a battle on 2 fronts here. If there's shots being heard by MSC, they're going to start to have a bit of a look.
$15 more seconds until phase 8. Nade again from Belmoth, well short and wide of the mark of Levi's there. Will get brought back up by Ninja. Oh, you spotted him there. I think just didn't take the shots quick enough, and 777 stays alive. And the Expendables get the circle. And now you kind of question, what's the play here for Ninja and Levi's? Hold this position, wait for Day Trade to push down the hill with Duck Juice and 777 watching from the other side of the road. What happens though if MS Chonburi get involved though?
Yeah, I would really like to see them get back a little bit. I think MSC, if they wrap in, they could be a real problem for Levi's and Ninja here. Obviously, this is a horrible scenario for both Day Trade and MSC, but I do just worry that if Levi's or Ninja go down, then that could be a world where the Expendables actually drop this game. Should be theirs to win, though.
Oh, a little tag onto Chow Man. And that's probably the problem right now for MS Chonburi. How do you even leave this position? Remembering Day Trade were the ones looking above, down below, taking shots, and you can see it here with Puchils. Getting into these vehicles is almost impossible.
I think you just have to send it in the vehicle, don't you? All 4, or maybe 3, and have one at the back to try to provide some overwatch, some covering fire. That looks like it's going to be Julio with the sniper rifle to do. And oh dear, that's not exactly what you want. You can't be running into a traffic jam before you even arrive at work, unfortunately. It's not gone very well for them at all. Day Trade are having an absolute feast. And so too are the Expendables. What's important to note is that neither Day Trade or the Expendables lost a player in that engagement. And so we're back at a 4-on-4. I'd say it favors the Expendables, but Day Trade doing a good job on the wrap.
Yeah, 11 points now for Day Trade. So if they win this game and they get all of the kills as well onto the Expendables, it's going to be single digits behind Cerberus, and we'll have a race on our hands for that top spot. 3 kills for the Expendables, low ground position, but you do have Duck Juice on the other side of the road, playing that anchor position. 777 leads from the front, pushes up the hill, but in the meantime, Jordan, Day Trade are pushing down the hill.
Yeah, they're giving up the high ground control, and they're just sort of playing into exactly what the Expendables are looking for. Cross shot's going to come through from Duck Juice. That's going to be a big problem. Belmoth down early, and you can just see how the Expendables is controlling this zone. It's such a strong position for 777. He is dropped, though, by Nurans. Big news. Brings it back to 3-on-3. Belmoth may even be resible inside of that smoke if Day Trade's feeling ballsy, but I think they're probably feeling a little bit too under the pump to get that res.
They need to play to Duck Juice. That's what they've got to play to. They're getting way too aggressive, pushing up into Day Trade without having Duck Juice being in that position. So how do you save Levi's here in this position? Same with Ninja. They're pushing above them. They almost didn't actually push back into the sight line of Duck Juice, who's doing a decent job of actually putting the pressure on. Levi's peeks over, but this is the problem. If Levi's and Ninja keep peeking like this and they get knocked down, it's going to end up being Duck Juice the last one alive. Puchils just trying to hang on. Ninja, yeah, look how aggressive they are. So low on health. They do get the down to Norans, but Ninja finds 2. They're landing the shots that matter. And a bit of help from the other side of the road. The Expendables find the chicken dinner. Really pressing the issue towards the end. Really nailing home the pressure onto Day Trade, a much-deserved victory.
Yeah, very, very well deserved for the Expendables, but I kind of agree with what you were saying. There was very much a world there where if Day Trade hit a nutty shot or two, that could have gone very wrong for the Expendables. They get it done in the end, though, so credit where it is due, but what I will say is that is yet another top 3 placement for Day Trade on Miramar, and they've failed to fall out of the top 3 in every single game so far today. They had, sorry, out of the top 5, I should say. They had a 3rd, a 5th, and a 2nd. So it's been a very consistent performance from Day Trade on those first 3 games today. But the Expendables were in pretty dire need of some big points, and they've been able to get that done. So they jumped themselves quite significantly up the scoreboard. And to be honest, I think we're probably going to be saying that a lot today. Every single team that gets themselves a win, if they're in the middle of that leaderboard, then yeah, they've got every opportunity to jump up inside the top 5, top 4, because of how tight it has been. And it hasn't really changed, like it hasn't ballooned out today, which is a little bit different to what we've seen in previous PCS events, because normally you're going to be seeing 1 or 2 teams at the top of the scoreboard really picking up a massive sort of, they're like the sponges, right? That's the analogy we've used to be going with.
Soaking up the points.
Soaking up all the points. But it hasn't really been the case for Cerberus. They have not really elevated their position from day 1 into day 2. In fact, they've sort of regressed a little bit.
There's another side to this as well. The Expendables now up into 4th, Jordan. Big win for them in terms of that. But we're looking at the larger picture. In terms of PGC points, they're one of our teams that we're kind of keeping an eye on and seeing who's going to get that spot to go to PGC. You're looking at Team Bliss, the Expendables, Archangel Predator, for example. Those 3 teams sort of like, fighting each other essentially to see who's going to have the better PCS7 to get more points to then get ahead. So, right now, Team Bliss have 15 extra points, but the Expendables, they're in the points. Team Bliss are basically team bottom at the moment. So, look, it's a really good sign for the Expendables. They just kind of have to keep this up at this level. They don't have to do much more. They don't have to win this event. As long as they're top 4 and Archangel Predator and Team Bliss are nowhere near them, they'll go to PGC. That's the way I kind of look at it. And then, obviously, we kind of have the battle now between the top 2, Day Trade and Cerberus.
Sometimes it's all right to be a bottom Xenox. You should know that. But I think in this case for Team Bliss, it's definitely a risky prospect, especially if they're hoping to make their way through to PGC. I will say still, I guess, early days, but it's starting to run down a little bit, at least for week number 1. We are starting to get towards the mid stages. In fact, I think we've just gone past the mid stages of week 1. So very quickly can start to say, early days, it's turning into maybe not so early days anymore. Good result, though, for Day Trade. They actually get more points out of that game than what the Expendables were able to do.
Yeah, and for my fantasy, yay, go Duck Juice. 2 kills, massive. Look at the damage, though, 626 damage. And, of course, the win. So celebrating in Xenox land at the moment in terms of the Twire Fantasy League player of the match for the Expendables. Not a flashy win, nothing too crazy, especially when you consider sort of the last 3 wins that we had prior to this. Obviously the Theraton 5 Dynamic Duo, 13 kill win AAP, and to close out yesterday, Day Trade with that 11 kill win as well. So probably one of the more quieter wins that we've had so far for PCS7, but I mean, that's stock and standard. You're going to find a couple of those. And now the Expendables find themselves in the top 4, 49 points. But look how close it is. Basically, I would say, Jordan, from the Expendables down even to Team Bliss.
Yeah, look, a lot of moving and shaking still yet to be done here in week 1, but it is getting a little bit more and more problematic. If you're still sitting at sub 30 points, which is obviously just NGE and Team Bliss at the moment, you're feeling further and further and further away from the top of the pack. But great news for us as fans of the game looking towards the top end of things. It's only a 10-point deficit, which is far, far less than what it was starting the day off. And that kind of puts us in an interesting position now heading into game number 4, which will also be on Erangel. So again, for Team Bliss and maybe those other teams that have been struggling a little bit today, new map, new opportunities, hopefully changes things up.
What's interesting, though, is when I look at sort of the overall larger picture, and excuse me, Zara, but I need to look at sort of PGC, because that's the big one, right? That's Worlds. So Day Trade, of course, if they win this event, it completely forfeits them as the best Thai team, right? Because they would be actually qualifying through as the PCS7 APAC winner. And at the moment, then, the best Thai team becomes Theraton 5. So they're basically, Teraton 5 is basically go day trade. We're day trade fans right now because it just makes their job so much easier. Otherwise, day trade would, obviously, if they don't qualify as the winner for this, they go through as the best tie team. They, of course, being the winners from PCS6, have a whole heap of points. It's pretty much impossible to see a world in which they don't go through as the best tie team in regards to PGC points. So that then means Teraton 5 would have to, obviously, play as one of the top 3 teams in APAC in terms of PGC points, which fortunately for them at the moment, they have 130 as it currently stands, looking very, very good. So something to keep an eye on. I guess in terms of Cerberus, they're actually at the moment technically behind Unicorn Phoenix, but since Unicorn Phoenix are not here, Cerberus are basically frontrunners for best Vietnamese team unless the Expendables somehow end up overtaking them by the event.
That would be a bit of a surprise, to be honest. I think Cerberus is a little bit of a more consistent team to me than the Expendables are. But hey, it may not be the case.
So
We'll have to see how it goes.
the TLDR is that if Cerberus day trade winning PCS7 doesn't really change a whole lot. I'm just being blunt and honest there. Both teams are looking almost as surefire to go to PGC. I don't even know how they would have to mess it up, and I don't even want to think about how they would mess it up because I think both are the best from their respective regions, Vietnam and Thailand, and I'd love to have them at PGC, and they'll be great representations for APAC. Let's head to Erangel, though, for the first time today for day 2. Match 9, our first time going over to the greener pastures.
Yeah, definitely. I think they're both good, solid representatives, and I'd be happy to see them there as well. 100% full confidence on my behalf as well for both of those two teams going in. I will just say that. Not 70 or 80%. That would have been a dumb thing to say. Either way, we do have Erangel to have a bit of a look at, which is always fun. Team Bliss, Origami, Orangutans, Day Trade, and Teraton 5 all dropping over the top of Georgia Pole, which is going to be quite a busy area of the map. Not normally a position that you'd see a lot of teams heading in, but I guess Team Bliss, they felt like it was a bit too much of a stretch to go down to the military island with that plane, and so they're going to head up to Zaki.
Probably that means it's going to be a Sosnovka Island Circle, doesn't it? That's usually how it goes. The one time that, you know, you don't go down there as a military-based team. No, it actually doesn't this time. Okay. Yasnaya, a bit of Stalber as well. Seen this kind of circle so many times before, and I would tend to lean into the surrounding areas of Yasnaya. You know, basically Mansion, I guess, as well, being a very critical point when it comes to this kind of phase 1 circle. I mean, it is only phase 1. You don't really play, you know, sort of too much into it, but from the future, MS Chonburi, they'll be pretty happy with this so far. The biggest thing is Day Trade, actually, on the complete opposite side of the map. So they've got a big rotation ahead of them for this particular game. Obviously looking to continue to take down Cerberus at the top spot. We look over to the Expendables, though. This was the push. Levi's and Ninja making their way on top of Day Trade. And, you know, we spoke about how aggressive of a position this was, peaking these kind of positions. If they lost their heads, if they got knocked and they didn't find these downs, I think Day Trade would have gone on and won the game. But as the smoke dissipated, they found the kills. And yeah, sometimes the nades don't always do as much damage as you think they will.
That actually was sitting at the bottom of his feet. That's insane. Yeah, I mean, that is not a knife's edge for the Expendables, I will be honest. But either way, they get it done, and they'll be very happy with their win. You know, on the point of Day Trade having to make a big rotation here on Erangel, we saw that a little bit on Miramar as well. And to be honest, they didn't struggle, regardless of where that initial circle was. Did very, very well for themselves, but Erangel might be a different story. Flash and Belmoth at the top of the kill leaderboard for the last game, 7 and 4 respectively. They were having a great time throughout the mid stages of that game, just on that high ground, sniping away.
Yeah, it wasn't a big kill win, actually, for the Expendables. Only 7 kills, and the MVP only had 2, but he had about almost 700 damage. So, yeah, it's not often you see the MVP not in that kind of graphic. Interesting to sort of note there. But obviously for Day Trade, they had 14 kills. So, largely dominating the game. Just couldn't get the win. In fact, almost mirroring the Orangutans when they finished second with 15 kills. For Day Trade, second and 14 kills. Very close to them. I am Pete. I'm not, but he is. Obviously went out early in the last game after what was a very fascinating sixth round. But PMA at the moment, Jordan, sort of thereabouts. Every now and then they sort of bob up, do some nice things. 36 points, just outside of the bottom 4, hanging around the middle portion of the leaderboard. They've done some nice things, but it's just a matter of, I guess, surviving. Only the 11 placement points, and that's basically the next step for them, and find some consistency in making the top 8.
Yeah, I mean, I think for PMA in particular, it's obviously a fairly fresh roster into PCS. Playing at this level is never going to be easy. It's a bit of a step up. So try to get some of that experience and hopefully return again next season with a little bit of that experience in your belt. A lot of teams, they come in, we see them play one season, maybe a couple of seasons, and not really able to convert it for the long term. But it is those teams that consistently are able to return that actually do start to show the improvement. I mean, Cerberus is a great example. Daytrade even is a great example of that. Those two teams in PCS 1, 2, and 3 were not the teams that they are now. And here we are in Season 7.
Team kill leader, Insight, 0 kills from the last match.
Yeah, they've done them a bit dirty with that one, haven't they?
They have incredibly done them dirty. Poor Team Bliss. Talk about rubbing salt into the wound. It's been a struggle for them. You know, this is a team, an organization, so much history when it comes to APAC and PCS. Obviously, not so much this particular roster iteration, Jordan, you know, when you kind of have insight on the team and what sort of even Monty and Bryn have been able to do on various other teams before as well. You know, the likes of Carnage, for example. They've been thereabouts. This is a team full of players and veterans, technically, at this point now in their careers. And it's just not clicking for them at the moment. Doesn't mean, though, you're counting them out. 26 points, they're not too far away. Basically, one really good game, and you're, you know, looking at a top 10 position. So they've just got to sort of stick fat and continue to sort of plug away. The results will come if they keep their heads in a good mental space.
Yeah, and I mean, it is a little bit surprising, to be honest, for Team Bliss, because they did perform so well in PCS 6. They finished 5th. And I mean, they were only a couple of points away from finishing 4th as well and nabbing that away from Cerberus. So I don't know what it is. Like, maybe it's just a downturn in form in a few of the players, and they just haven't kind of come into this one feeling super confident, whatever that may be. I mean, at this point now, quite deep into day 2, I can't imagine the confidence levels are super high. But there's no question that this is a team that can perform at this level. It's just not coming together at the moment. So hopefully, if it doesn't happen this week, right, maybe they don't have enough time to sort of figure it out by tomorrow. I can kind of understand that. They will have that good week off, and I know they are at the Bliss, I don't know what they call it, the Bliss Compound, the Bliss Boot Camp, whatever.
The Bliss Compound.
Yeah, it's a big building, isn't it? It's like it's a big square building or something like that. I've never been there, but I do want to go one day. But yeah, they're up there, and I believe they're sort of boot camping, so to speak, and they'll be there all week together, and they'll be able to sort of go over it over the course of the week and figure out maybe what went wrong, what needs to change, and come back next week stronger.
They did, of course, have that 2nd place finish to start today, but
it hasn't converted.
Yeah, no, it hasn't. 14th and 10th after that 2nd place, but maybe Erangel can be a place that they can sort of turn the tide. It wasn't the case, though, in day 1, Jordan. 12th, 16th, and 14th on Erangel for Team Bliss. Cerberus, well, it has not been a good day for them at all. After a tremendous day 1, they have not backed it up. 5th, 9th, and then 14th. In fact, it's getting worse as the day has gone on. They've just not been able to get anything to go their way. And, of course, Daytrade now have caught up to them. But you know, as I said before, in regards to PGC points and all those calculations for Cerberus and Daytrade, they're not really sweating. But a chance for the likes of SGD. SGD is a team I look to, as we actually have them on our screens now. Perfect timing. As being able to, if they can get that top spot, they will go to PGC. If they don't get that top spot, they will not go to PGC. It's a pretty simple equation for them.
It's a lot on the line, though, isn't it? It feels like a lot of pressure to, you know, look at a couple of the other teams and see them already on 50 or 60 PGC points and know that they really only have to have like a half-decent tournament to make it through to PGC, whereas you now kind of have to have a very, very good tournament. And granted, SGG are doing that. They are top 3 at the moment. Question is, will that be enough for them to get over the line? That's sort of the nature of the beast, isn't it, though? I mean, how often we talk about consistency being key within tournaments, but consistency being key over the course of the year as well can be a big difference maker when we're talking about qualification through to the biggest tournament on the PUBG calendar.
I should mention, there is probably a world in which second, maybe even third, could technically do it, but then you're looking at some different equations.
This is bad.
Nan's going to find a kill onto Mirage after Mad Dog already got the elimination onto Insight. So a quick double there onto Team Bliss. And yeah, the Erangel woes continue. As I said before, on day one, it was not good. 12th, 16th, 14th. They're on the verge of another 16th here if Monty and Bryn can't find a way out of this position safely. It's big kills, though, for AAP. Obviously, they had that win to start today, but since then, it's all been very quiet on the front of the Philippines team. A good start, though, on Erangel, and it shifts them back into the top 5.
See how long they can hold on to that. E-Arena, MSC, all very close. Teraton 5 and Booram not far away, but I'm not super keen on Teraton 5's position at the moment. It doesn't feel like a particularly reliable spot. They're obviously in transition, and they don't know, but we do. They're going to run into Team Bliss and Archangel Predator, who have already gotten into a bit of an argument. Archangel Predator is currently winning that one, but... if
Not a
Teraton
verbal
5,
one, I assume.
No, I mean, it's an argument with guns, but... you know, sometimes it do be like that.
Yeah, and this circle shift, how common is this really when you kind of get this northeastern circle? Yazzie Pond, Yasnaya, Warehouse on the north side of Yasnaya as well. It's so common. Monty, so low. Spray from CJ. I'm almost half expecting to see him get knocked out of the vehicle. That's just the way the tournament has gone for Team Bliss, but Monty survives. But what feels like maybe momentarily on 5 health points and knocked. It's nil Teves, the new generation esports lads. And it means Team Bliss down to just 1 player. It is not a tournament that is clicking for them at all. And Haisaki goes down to Leo. Big kill for SGD. Big kill onto our lobby leaders.
Indeed, but the Expendables, they might be about to lose a member here or there. 777 already down. Ninja, he goes out. He decides he doesn't want to be there. He goes back in. Levi's down as well. It's shotgun action in Yasnaya. And Shen with a nice spray down onto Teddy is going to pick up another one for
God,
SGD.
the Expendables.
Yeah, they have just been left for dead. They're toast.
Well, so much for Duckus and Monty on my fantasy league team. Just both instantly gone within 10 minutes of this game. And more to come. Such is the nature of Erangel, especially with a circle shift such as this. Not a surprise to be seeing all these fights taking place compared to what is usually the very slow-paced Miramar start. And from the future, down to just 2 players. There's good old Pete. No nade in hand this time, and new generation further afield, trying to maybe just get away from this fight, and they will.
Just take a look at the map stream and see how many teams are inside of Yasnaya right now. It is an absolute rainbow, and there's no room for anyone else to get in there. So if this circle does go over the top of Yasnaya, well, then you better be ready to see some stuff, because it's going to get pretty dangerous. Those fields around Yasnaya don't tend to provide the best cover. Day Trade will be hoping for a western shift. Don't expect they're going to get it. Not in the long term, at the very least. But they have 4 alive, so there is that. Really explosive game from E-Arena so far. Those 3 kills they got on the entry. This might be a little replay of it. Perfectly timed. Well done to the production team.
Love seeing good shotgun play. Don't see it too often. A bit of a rarity at times, but when it's done right, when it's done like that, Sapnix with a 3K.
Yeah.
Pow, pow, pow. And E-Arena with 3 kills. Been quiet today. I mean, they had a very good day 1. We haven't quite seen them at their very best today, Jordan. 4th place, 3 kills. Was nice back in round 7, but 11th and 13th on either side of that performance after what was a very good day 1. 7th, 4th, 2nd, 6th, a bunch of kills as well. 9th with 7. So they're thereabouts. We can't be counting them out. 7 points behind SGD. And another team kind of like SGD where, you know, they win this event. They go to PGC. So they've got something to really fight for. Do or die. And it is do or die at the moment for Bryn, solo player for Team Bliss. See if he can maybe go for a bit of a rank tank. Go for the solo play for top 8. 12 seconds away from phase number 3. And a big one at that in terms of where this is going to go. Does it go onto Icarus, onto that compound? Such a critical position if it does.
Yeah. Well, it
that's
does.
not bad. That's pretty good.
It is very good if you're Icarus, and the Yasnaya teams, it's not too bad, but if you're GE or Day Trade, you're feeling not too happy about this one. It's not the worst thing in the world for Theraton 5 because they can sort of play down the hill from Starbar Hill, but yeah, this is going to be a rough one for Day Trade. I'm really interested to see what they're going to do. I just don't see a world where they go in safely. Either they're going to run into Origami Orangutans, or they're going to go a little bit too far north and run into Theraton 5. They're going to have to work hard to make this one happen.
Job Jab had a good day today. Every time I feel like we're on Job Jab, he's really leading from the front, trying to find kills, being aggressive, and well, in large part usually successful at that. There's the solo player for Team Bliss, gets away from Patampong. Fortunately for him, but not for long. And at any point, you kind of pull up to this rock position, and Exquisite on the other side. Goodbye, Bryn. Goodbye, Team Bliss. Second last place. And unfortunately, dead last on the leaderboard going into the final game of day 2.
Yeah. Not a good place to be. Either way, doesn't bear much mentioning anymore. GE are on their way down through the southern side of the map as well. They'll have to be a little aware of Buriram, who have got quite a nice crossfire established. Any team driving here is really going to be facing a bit of a gauntlet run, and they have gone straight through the middle. GE somehow still alive. I think one of them's on a sliver of HP, and it might have been Clory's. He was knocked out of the vehicle. Always has to be my fantasy player that gets knocked out early. Either way, the rest of GE seem to be traveling okay, but where are they going to end up? That's my big problem. Anywhere on the side of this hill is fraught with danger, because if you're open to the wrong angle, someone's just going to be peppering shots into you, and there's just not a lot of cover at all. So they'll end up okay for the moment. Belmoth caught off guard by Nan. And again, that was kind of what I was talking about for Day Trade. It's always such a difficult rotation around this area of the map when you're coming in last. Like when you're coming in as one of the last teams, there's always someone set up somewhere, and you can't spot everything. There's so much tree cover on this hill that you go around the wrong corner at the wrong time and you just lose a player, and it's like, well, what could we do?
16 minutes gone. Nan with a beautiful spray onto Nurans. Headshot and down, out for the count. Day Trade down to 2. And their little run in chasing down Cerberus is just hitting a speed bump at the moment here on Erangel. It's why we discussed the difference between the two maps, Jordan. It's been a struggle.
This will get nasty
on Erangel for Day Trade.
This circle shift is going to be a really rough one. You can already see Cerberus suffering at the hands of it. They won't be the first team. MSC, SGD, they're both going to have to move as well. And just where do you go at this point? How do you even get out? EA are loving it. They're just on the corner of Yasnaya, the perfect corner. They're going to have shots into the field. They'll be able to camp the teams coming out. Buriram already set up as well. Pretty happy with the proceedings thus far. But this is a very dangerous circle having to play this now. If you're not already set up, it kind of feels like you are in trouble.
Goodness. Well, second one. If the first one didn't do it, Jordan, second one certainly was going to.
Yep.
Never quite know what you're going to get from those nades. KMF1 up close now to Diane. Big shots. Was getting traded by Van, but KMF actually stays alive. Flash goes down. Poochels last one alive now for Day Trade. In a largely uneventful match from them on Erangel. It's been largely uneventful for them on this map so far in PCS7. Fortunately for them, Cerberus, of course, gone as well. So our top 2 are gone. A very big opportunity for SGD and for E-Arena to really put a bit of pressure on the top 2 and try and grab that top spot and maybe go to PGC. They need to build on this. They need to capitalize.
Especially given the fact that SGD is not in the worst of circle positions, right? They can still play a little bit of their corner of Yasnaya. They should be able to stay alive for the top 8 at the very least. PMA and NGE battling over the crater on the eastern side of the zone. Many a team has won a game from this position. Could well end up being quite an important one if PMA can dislodge NGE with all of their players alive. Utah He's behind CJ in that smoke, and CJ had absolutely no idea. Utah and a great escape. What is going on?
Yeah,
he's a smoke criminal.
I mean, it's APAC, isn't it? Right? These things happen in this region. It's probably something he shouldn't have got away with, but has been able to. And we've seen that a little bit from Genius Esports at times tonight. Some calculated plays, and Evil Patrick, Mad Dog, still alive, but only the 2 now for Archangel Predator. Still inside of the top 5, 4 kills in this game, but can't imagine they're going to be able to keep up with EA and SGD this game. And saying that, though, for both SGD and Arena, inside of Yasnaya, they're going to be teams pushing out if they do not get a Phase 5 circle shift. So 13 seconds time, Jordan. So important that they get this southern shift. Otherwise, anything up north, and they just need to get moving as soon as possible. And it will be a difficult task for them if it does eventuate, and it does. Oof. Have to leave Yasnaya at Phase 5.
It's like every single one of these circles has pretty much been the worst circle shift for the majority of the lobby. And that will continue with now all the Yasnaya teams that were feeling pretty okay so far, now having to move. PMA and NGE, this fight that is about to ensue becomes ever more important because this compound, this little set of buildings and that little defilade are inside of the zone. So if you can take control of this area of the map, that's going to be big. Drive-by attempt from PMA, it works out. KMF has got one. In the meanwhile, Archangel Predator done so, but it's a mess on the kill feed. Teraton 5 getting into a fight as well with Origami Orangutans, and that is, well, it started well. It's going well. Ranger X does drop, but so too do the rest of the Origami Orangutans, and in the end, Teraton 5 will lock down their position. They have to deal with a breach from SGD. They sense their opportunity. They find their moment. Patton Pong's got 2. He gets 3.
Yeah,
SGD
clean.
have been 1v3. 1v4 almost.
SGD made the right play. There was nothing else that they can do. They were leaving Yasnaya. They saw the fighting happening. It just so happens that the orangutans went down so quickly. Therefore, Teraton 5 were able to sort of turn their direction.
Here comes another one.
Where they were going to be heading in towards where SGD were making their way. And yeah, obviously from the future now pushing in from behind them too. Another team pushing out of Yasnaya. Nade goes out. It's perfect. It lands onto Delta Mix. Racida Jr. with that one. Another one goes out looking for more. He does land it onto Man, but doesn't get the down. One more. It might be the one as well. He He throws that one way too high, and he cooked it way too long. The Molotov also goes well over, and Man might be able to get this revive confirmed onto Delta Mix, but Teraton 5, he's got 3 more. He's picked up some more as well. Nades aplenty. Blocking that one, those The Rock. He's got 2 more. How's this one?
Oh, that looks good.
Yes, it is. He got the re-down, the re-knock. Man comes back. No, Man just grabs the vehicle and says, I've had enough. I'm out of here. See you later, Delta Mix.
Dude, this is an artillery barrage like you've never seen before. How many grenades do they have to live through? Rossiter Jr., though, he's stuck around a bit too long. Y8 pulls out the Car 98. And, well, Rossiter Jr. eventually does get his man, but it remains to be seen whether or not he will survive. Smokes do have to go across. Looks like they have gone deep enough to keep Rossiter Jr. safe, but Teraton 5, can they afford the res right now? No, it isn't actually deep enough onto Rossiter Jr.
Not inside of the circle either, so I mean, you got to either commit it or pick him up and yeah, run into the smoke, and that's exactly what Excrizit's going to do. Leo's still there, by the way, as a solo for SGD, and it has got them into the top 8. So at least some placement points for them as they go for the revive. Leo's not even moving a muscle, and that circle right out in the open. And it kind of almost brings Buriram United back into the fold. May have even forgot about them, Jordan, over there on the eastern side, but it does kind of help them out. It creates a little bit more of an even playing field, but MS Chonburi, they'll like their position, and I think they'll like their opportunity in front of them to collect some kills here.
Yeah, it's a very risky, dangerous position for MSC, but let's talk about this replay. I was really touching on that fight between PMA and NGE a lot because I felt like that position was such an important one in this zone, and ultimately it kind of went the way of Buriram, and they sort of, as we said, flew under the radar because we weren't watching that side of the map, but now they hold a really strong position. Leo is dealt with by Teraton 5. MSC, they have to deal with a battle on multiple fronts, and it's very important for them to be getting clean kills. They've got one knock there on the Rossiter Jr. He's safe behind the rock. A grenade, scary for a moment for Teraton 5, but they're okay. MSC, though, they can't afford to put too much attention into just one team. They need to be checking north, checking south, checking west, checking east. It's going to have to be perfection for MSC if they want to keep all their members alive. And GE, they're still trying to find J-End.
Simon does get that kill onto J-End. Almost escaping. A little bit messy from Simon, but that's fine. 7 kills down for Genius Esports and starting to rack up the kills. And also getting these placement points too as well. AT, though, so low, but gets back up to full health. Job Jab usually at the front for MS John Berry, and is so once again. Julio at the back watching. Top 5 takes a tag, though, from Reseda Jr. Job Jab. Oh, he's been tasked once again with trying to find that early knockdown. YA and AT for Icarus, and they've been forced back. They had that warehouse compound for so long, and here comes Zest now, leading the way with that nade. Job Jab actually went down really early, so that's the frontline goal for MS John Berry. Then they lose Skeet at the back. It's falling apart for them.
Yeah, this is the problem I was talking about. They had way too many angles to cover, and if they even lose one of those angles, and it starts to feel like the pressure encroaches and becomes a little bit too much, that's kind of what's occurred. And Jamman lucky that there's a launching platform for the grenades that send them a bit too far, but he's cooked.
Yeah.
He is cooked. There's so many players looking in his direction that I'd be very surprised if he's able to survive. Pops his head up for a second. Zest nearly takes it off. Throws a grenade through as well.
And they do technically get 2 of the bleed out kills as well for that for MS John Berry. So, 6 kills, top 5, actually a pretty decent game in the end. But yeah, obviously that nade finally landing, and they will obviously flush him. So more kills going the way for Genius Esports. 9 now, in fact. It's 10 actually for Top 5. So our middle portion of the leaderboard really coming to the fore right here in this match. But Buriram United, Jordan, they're just creeping up. You can see on the map feed here, they've now got full central control of this circle. Rather unsighted this game outside of a couple of kills and a couple of moments. They now creep up to the best position. Genius Esports only have the 3 players and kind of hemmed in now on the north side. They do have the high ground, but they can't really move away from this position. Buriram have kind of trapped them.
Oh, Simon, this first fight is going to be so important. He's found the timing, but he missed. He whiffed. Nordra pops up and gets another as well. That is huge stuff from Nordra, who, back in the day, he was the star player of PCS APAC. You're starting to see a little bit of that. Buriram, they wipe the floor with GE, and they go charging into 3rd place. That was clean as a whistle from Nordra.
Charging is probably the right way to say it. 9th to 3rd for Buriram in that game. A little quiet to start with, but really found the pace in the middle portion of that game. Really controlled the eastern side. We didn't see all that much of it. I think largely where we were kind of watching was a more bit towards the west, a little bit more towards the north. Buriram just got the job done where they needed to and capitalized in the end. A really big result for them. They only had the 16 placement points in the first 8 rounds. From there, they get obviously all 10, so almost doubling up, and of course they got the kills to go along with it. Big result for them. Now they kind of enter that conversation in terms of PGC, remembering they did not play PCS 6. They, like E-Arena and like SGD, basically almost need to win this event, and that puts them in a position where they can maybe kick on from here.
Yeah, definitely some big pressure on the shoulders of Buriram if they want to rise to the heights that they, used to hold on to back in the PCS 4 and 5 days.
Glory days.
They are absolutely the kind of team that can just dominate a lobby like this. It's been a long time since we did see that, but yeah, evidence is there that Buriram can be a really dominant team. They can win PCS events, and based on that game, yeah, you can kind of see exactly why. Very clean stuff from Nordra, and very solid game from Buriram. Good win on the board.
Another game, though, Jordan, for Cerberus that haven't shown up. It's been an awful day, too, for them now. We can actually probably sort of write that one down. Are you concerned for them?
Yeah, a little bit. Not only is Cerberus not performing, but there's a lot of teams just below them that are kind of rocketing their way up. I mean, we talked about Day Trade having a few good rounds. Buriram's now starting to do the same. Top 5 are also going pretty much from the bottom of the scoreboard now to very close to the top, and they're looking like a very consistent threat today. So I would be very worried, very scared if I was Cerberus at the moment.
There was a point in time where it was about a 30-point gap from Cerberus to second. And while that obviously doesn't remain anymore, a 30-point gap is basically first to about 8th at this point. So a lot of teams have kind of entered the mix and very slowly catching up to Cerberus on 86 points. Of course, Day Trade, they were not able to capitalize this time around on Erangel, 13th place finish for them, no kills. So they stay put on 76 points. Buriram, of course, now up to 62 points. Massive result for them, and obviously keep in touch with the top two. So, I mean, a big jump up for quite a lot of teams in the middle portion of the leaderboard. In terms of the match leaderboard, though, it kind of actually plays into what I'm saying here. Like Superior Ram, Jordan, Genius, they're at top 5, getting points and really climbing up from that middle portion to joining the top teams.
Yeah, SGD, they only managed to get 4 points out of that game, which surprised me. It looked like they were fragging pretty well, but ultimately it doesn't look like that's really been converted. A lot of top-heavy points coming through from that game. Cheeksing here for Buriram, who is a fairly new member into the roster. Obviously not one of the core 4 that you would have been aware of or sort of used to seeing back in, the glory days of Buriram. Having a good performance there. 5 kills, 300 damage or so. Teams, the people that picked him up in their fantasy team will be very happy with that performance. Good solid amount of points across there. But as you're talking about, the gaps are starting to lessen on the overall leaderboard. 86 points for Cerberus, and they've been on 86 points for a couple of games now. Luckily for them, Day Trade also did not get any points out of this game, so that gap hasn't really closed. But it's the middle of the pack to the top of the gap, top of the pack gap that is closing.
Yeah,
that is a little bit more interesting to me.
Only about, I don't have it on me, but maybe about 6 or 7 points tonight, I think, as a whole for Cerberus. So a big contrast to the 70+ something that they had obviously on the first night, or even almost close to 80. Big difference. And look, that's obviously what we kind of came into tonight talking about, was Cerberus off the back of day one. Were they going to be able to sort of keep that momentum going? Right now, the answer is a resounding no. There is still obviously one more game for them to maybe bounce back and extend the lead that they once had. We'll have that game, though, very shortly after this break.
Yeah. I only got one question. So is this on
Outside, inside, we don't stop. Go worldwide, we don't stop. From the bottom to the top, we don't stop. From the birds to the block, we don't stop. Outside, inside, we don't stop. Global, worldwide, we don't stop. From the bottom to the top, we don't stop. From the birds to the block, we don't stop. Outside, inside, we don't stop. Global, worldwide, we don't stop. From the bottom to the top, we don't stop. From the birds to the block, we don't stop. Outside, inside, we don't stop. Global, worldwide, we don't stop. From the birds to the block, we don't stop.
Some updates to Destin, a new vehicle, and special new skins. All this and more as we dive into the Update 19.2 patch report. First up, Destin is getting some additional cover in several areas, as well as more cell towers, ascenders, and fuel pumps. You'll also now notice the passage of time and even shifting weather patterns in your Destin games. If your match is going long and you're starting to feel hangry, look out for the newest Battlegrounds vehicle, the food truck. This sturdy vehicle holds a driver and passenger, while up to 2 others serve up hot food and even hotter lead in the back. There's also new heavy stock in the game to try out on your favorite stock-slotted weapon. You may remember us talking about an animation refresh some time back. This update, you'll start to see the fruits of those efforts with new animations for all weapon operations and player motions. Check them out and let us know what you think. For those looking to really pimp their ride, we've added new special vehicle skins to the game. Our first set will turn your run-of-the-mill Coupe RB into a sleek and sexy McLaren GT. Customized paint, rims, and even your brakes. These customizations can be crafted in the workshop or by collecting rewards from the new McLaren Crafters Pass. But before you go betting your pink slip, while it may look like a McLaren, it still performs like a regular old coupe. There's quite a bit more to learn about these updates and more, so check out the patch notes for full details. Update 19.2 is here, so drop in, wax up that new McLaren, and serve up some chicken dinner, extra bullets. We'll see you on the battlegrounds.
Just one more game remaining here for PCS7 APAC day number 2. It's been a largely eventful day as well. If day 1 was all about Cerberus, day 2 is really about everyone else. I feel like almost every team in the middle portion to the upper portion has had a little bit of the spotlight tonight, Jordan, which has created a rather largely even competition so far, which is really nice because it feels like APAC is usually a runaway for 1 or 2 teams.
Yeah, I think at this point last season, we were talking about day trade and day trade only, and we were pretty much like, yeah, look, they've probably won this season. Can't really say the same for Cerberus. It kind of looked like there would be a possibility that could be the case after day 1, but they have really failed to show up today, and day trade and Buriram and Teraton 5 have all had pretty good days, and now they're really within striking distance of that top spot. We may even, at the end of today, see a shift. First place, Cerberus dropping down into second, which is probably not something that you would have expected to be saying going into today. So it has been nice, as far as I'm concerned, to sort of see how things have shaped up and that we haven't had one team just running away with it.
Yeah, and obviously I agree with that. I mean, unless you're a Cerberus fan, I feel like everyone else wants to see, obviously, a bit of an even contest across the board. What excites me, though, really going into tomorrow, and I mean, obviously going even into this last game today, is the stack of teams that essentially either need to win or probably finish second to make PGC. You're looking at Buriram, you're looking at E-Arena, SGD, all hanging around the top 6 still currently, and all within striking distance of being able to achieve that kind of result. So we're kind of keeping our eyes on that. We're keeping our eyes on that sort of situation, along with obviously the other situation, the Team Bliss, the Expendables, and AAP, and who's winning that kind of battle. Well, at the moment, Jordan, AAP's 9th, the Expendables are 10th. So very close between those two. And I've gone and have a look at the PGC points that they currently have. It's 50 points at the moment for the Expendables, 25 points for Archangel Predator. So as long as Archangel Predator can get that 25-point PGC difference by the end of PCS7, they could be going to PGC.
Yeah, you're loving those PGC points calculations. Maths on stream, always a dangerous prospect, but obviously something that we're really going to have to get into next week when it starts to become super, super important. For now, every team just trying to position themselves as well as possible heading into the last day of the week tomorrow, and then obviously heading into next week. I think this is more of a staging ground than anything else, and the real business does definitely start next week. Bit more of a favorable circle here, I'll say, for Team Bliss off the drop. They're able to get onto the ground first. They are down there at the military base, and it's a much more favorable position to be landing in than Zaki, which is where they had to end up last game. So I feel a little bit more confident, a little bit more comfortable with that one.
No back-to-back winners since the opening 2 matches of PCS7 when Cerberus won the first 2 games, and since then it's all been single chicken dinner winners, and a little bit of a burnout on the road here. Zest just trying to avoid being run over early. We see this so often, probably more often than we probably should, and yet I never really see, these days at least, the player on the outside of the vehicle get run over. It's more so getting stuck and stranded there, and then someone like a Duck Juice here being able to find a gun and maybe fire some shots and put some pain in. But no, Zest will get away. A little bit of help from Simon T. It's just all a bit of a time waster, really, in the end. Duck Juice from school, he'll go back to looting.
Hey, that's 66 damage for your fantasy points. You get 1 point for every 100 damage, so you should be really happy with that. You call that time wasting. I call that fantasy points. Either way,
I'll take it.
Right.
I need all the points I can get right now. It's not looking good.
I think so. I think you do. Take a look at the top 5 for that last game. E-Arena with Sapnix.
Well, Sapnix with the shotgun, right?
Yeah,
so that was a big 3K shotgun with the S1. So not a lot of damage, but the damage he did was very impactful. Whereas look at Nordra, Jordan. He got the kills at the end, 1,000 damage. So they were putting in a lot of work and throughout the match, but he got the majority of those kills actually at the very end of the game.
I will say a bit of a shout out to Patton Pong from Teraton 5. I think he had a bit of a freaky performance in that last map as well. He really did pull off a couple of very important, impactful frags that kept Teraton 5 in the game in what really looked like awkward scenarios. So he deserves a shout out, in my opinion, as well. I can't believe they've done it back-to-back as well, haven't they? Look, what is it about this broadcast that doesn't like Australian teams? Last game, kill leader, 0 kills Insight. This game, kill leader, 0 kills Rain. This is just not fair.
Yeah, I mean, look, honestly, you could probably just about pick almost any other team that has at least one kill and highlight them. But look, I mean, while they are being highlighted, obviously, you know, third last at the moment now. So they had that really massive game in round 7 on Miramar. If you were to take that game away from them, and it's not fair, obviously you shouldn't, that's 21 of the 37 points that they've got. So, you know, it's still not good viewing. They need to find some consistency in their other matches. They showed us that really good game. They showed us what they can do. It's just about being able to replicate that and being able to, and not even so much to the fullest degree, Jordan. They don't have to go and get 15 kills every game, but just getting a little bit more consistency is the next step for them.
Yeah, speaking of which, they're at on 5. I mean, they have completely turned their tournament around. They were right at the bottom of the scoreboard. They are the 14th or 15th going into today.
Yeah.
And I said, I couldn't understand it because they did so well last season. They haven't made really any roster changes. I expected them to be a solid contender, and now it kind of looks like they are. Really not too far away from even a top 2 placing.
Yeah, and they've been consistent today, actually, right? 6th with 5 kills, 1st with 8, then 6th with 2 kills, then 3rd with 10 kills. So all 4 games that they've played today, they're at on 5. They've been consistent. They've been putting in the work, so they're getting the reward for it after what was actually a pretty, you know, poor day 1.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you want to be seeing as well. They've obviously made some adaptations and figured it out. Obviously, we'll wait and see if they can get it done for Game 5 and have what is a really, really good day, or if they're going to sort of end with a little bit of disappointment right on the back end. Either way, they've definitely done enough to impress and get back into the swing of things in PCS7. Did you see Archangel Predator there for a moment? They've had one good game today. Haven't really impressed in the rest.
Yeah.
Kind of the same thing can be said for the Expendables, which has kind of become the expectation for those two teams respectively. I feel like in the more recent PCS events, Archangel Predator have taken a bit of a dip in form after being a little better last year. And the Expendables as well, they've always been sort of a hit and miss team.
Yeah,
so,
middle of the pack.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we get a pretty much standard Erangel circle. Gatka Fields, Everest, still a bit of George Ball on the north side. So anything really out towards the west is going to be very much playable and could just about shift anywhere at this point. So a lot of terrain. It's going to be a little bit slower than what we had in the last game, Jordan, which, you know, anything I feel like that goes out towards the east, you're going to have a little bit more of a faster game in the first couple of phases. But out west, there's so much room. There's so much space. Not really expecting a whole lot to transpire early on here. We're watching Cerberus, though, briefly making their rotation in from the south side of the Gatka field, actually pushing rather close to Buriram United as we actually kind of fly back over towards them. You can see Cheeksking back into the backdrop. Same with Nordra, too, who may just try and ward them off from his current location. No one else necessarily close to Nordra. Kanaxi just in the mini-map there, but I think he's going to have to maybe fall away from this. Cerberus not looking to really care about those shots. They'll take this hill position instead. And they need a good game to really close out today, Cerberus. Otherwise, it's looking dire going into tomorrow as the lobby leaders with basically no form going into day 3.
With all that said, there is a lot of unplayable terrain in this this initial circle. So that can sometimes cause a few issues. Simon is just going to hold his shots. Maybe it's Job Jab that they'll look for, but he appears to be going over the more western bridge, so he'll be safe. GE unable to find anything on that rotation through. A lot of teams already feeling pretty comfortable. I like the spot that FTF found themselves in on top of Everest. Usually gives you a lot of info. And I talked about Job Jab going over the western bridge. It was, in fact, not safe. Icarus are able to take him down at the hands of AT. Well, that's an unfortunate loss for MS Chonburi, who have been decent but not amazing tonight. They would have liked to have rounded it out with a good solid game here to just stay comfortable race for a top spot. Going to be more difficult to do that now, just down to 3.
Eight minutes gone. Final game of the evening as E-Arena making their transition out on the beachfront. So just the one death for MS Chonburi so far inside of the first 8 minutes. Minute 40 until phase 2. It feels like just really at this point RNG, bit of gamble in terms of which way you think the circle's going to really go. We spoke about Archangel Predator before. They've got the center position at the moment. Flash peeks over. Easy kill onto Lyrics. And I do like this actually repositioning.
Don't like that.
The nade though. Well, good reposition. The nade hasn't quite gone over the top as he would have liked. And yeah, that one's also just not even remotely close to
That's a hard nade to hit, though.
Unless he was trying to get Lyrics, in which case it was a bit closer. But yeah, hard nade to hit. But what makes you then even attempt it?
I don't know, just put a bit of extra pressure on. If it hits, it's a nice highlight moment. We get excited on the stream. Everyone's happy.
It's true.
So,
but then he throws the first one and it just looks a bit silly.
yeah, look, sometimes that happens too. Zizzy will need to be a little careful. Flash is really watching him. No rotation coming in. I am a little concerned, I'll say, for Day Trade. This is a big, big split. So if Flash goes down, for example, there's just no recovering him. So they do need to be very, very careful with their positioning, the piece that they're taking. Puchel's on the move. Flash well aware of that fact as well. He knows that he's in a dangerous spot. They get that initial knock, but obviously it's not converted, so there's no real significant advantage anymore. They don't have the element of surprise. They don't have a player advantage. The Arena have been pretty good too, so it's not like you're
saying that though.
Team.
Arena can't really just push to the other side of that.
Oh no, they can't do anything. But
yeah,
if you make a mistake, you're in trouble. You're going to be punished for it.
100%. All right, well, phase 2 circle making its way in and straight to Georgia Paul we go. Forget the Gatka field, say goodbye. We're heading up north.
That's
South George, even North George still in as well.
Yeah, that's painful. Literally every team pretty much except for like Icarus, Ross, and Theraton 5 and maybe MSG. MSG?
Massive
MSC.
hardship.
I don't know why I keep saying
massive.
MSG. Got some food on the road. I'm pretty hungry actually.
Flash, well, Arena had to make the dash away from the backside of that rock and straight into the sightlines of Day Trade Gaming. And, well, they've done a decent job, all things considered, and have been able to put a bit of separation between themselves and Day Trade. Day Trade now, too, need to get into their vehicles and get moving up north towards Georgia Paul. Flash stays behind, gets Zizzy down to a very low HP margin, pulls out the mini, needs one more shot to land, and he lands it. No, it's Norins that gets it. He takes the credit, he gets the knock. Sapnik's going for the revive, and what's going on here? Icarus, they had the first position at Georgia Paul. They haven't done a whole lot with it. They've allowed From the Future in towards South George, and MS John Burry as well, taking the tri-warehouses. Not a bad spot, and Julio with the knockdown onto Levi's.
Yeah, the Expendables are suffering losses, but Julio's out in the middle of nowhere. He's in no man's land. Got maybe a bit greedy for that kill, and he is punished for it by Duck Juice. There's another point for your fantasy team, Xenox. Having a great game so far is Duck Juice. Yeah, I think that's actually not worked out very nicely for MSC, given the way that it started. I'd be very disappointed. E-Arena also really under the pump. They're on the beach. They've got to invest those smokes early, which is never going to be fun. It leaves you with not a lot of util for later on in the game, and I don't even know if they've got a vehicle to work with there. I didn't quite catch it. It looks like it's gone into the water. I see AU as sinking as we speak, which means for these two E-Arena players, they're just, yeah, they're done. Like, what can you do? The buggy's in the water as well. Monty's been knocked, and he'll be finished. So, bad news if you're a Team Bliss fan.
It's been a bad night. It's been a, unfortunately, bad tournament for them as well. But there is day 3. There is still maybe some hope to be had elsewhere. Belmont, a nice double kill. A bit of help from Flash and Norrens. It's all Day Trade at the moment in terms of finding kills. They may be costly, though. You might get 3 or 4 kills, but you might lose a player for it. KM99 looking to get revived. Molotov from Norrens does not make it past the window, largely broken by the shattered glass.
Does he go through his own
and
molly?
he's able to at least clear out this position at the corner before pushing through the front door, but he gets punished. Over-aggressive from Norrens. KM99 gets the kill. Tycon, though, for Cerberus, punishing him, and Flash is going backwards down the hill.
This was always going to be the problem for Day Trade, though, wasn't it? Like, they played such a split setup that if they get into these isolated fights and they don't win their 1v1s, then no one's going to save you. And now Day Trade's down 2 players. It looked good, but instead of rotating, instead of working their way into the zone, they've decided to take fights, and they're not going to get anything done in this final game. It's been a really good day for Day Trade, all things considered, but final game of the day, maybe not quite going to be what they're looking for. Hopefully they can put a couple of points on the board in those kill potentials, but aside from that, don't think we're going to be seeing too much more from Day Trade tonight. Cerberus be licking their lips at that opportunity. They have a reasonable setup, and that circle shift is not going to hurt them too much. I don't know who you're ho-horing about, but I'm looking at origami orangutans and thinking, oh, that's worked out pretty good.
More so just the fact that it's still got a very large amount of water. And obviously, Phase 4 is going to bring it in anyway. Hospital's still going to be involved in that. So the Phase 3/Phase 4 circle will largely be the same. But what this does is it forces everyone away from Everest, forces everyone away from the crates of Georgia Paul and from the hospital fields as well, which is where Buriram currently located. Team Bliss rotating, same with SGD. Obviously, as you were mentioning, perfect circle for the orangutans. T5 also in a pretty good spot. Same too with From the Future. Bliss on the move, the rotate. Can they get most of their players through this time around? They've only got 3 that they need to get through, and largely it looks as if they're going to get all 3 in fact through. But Mirage, Bryn, so low, they cannot put a foot wrong here. Get into a building, heal up, and they can get to a good spot. Never mind, both being knocked. Skeet, he goes down to Duck Juice. The Expendables push in, get the warehouse. 2 kills for Duck Juice. Xenox is happy.
Yeah, look, I'm going to be honest. I have no idea how Team Bliss got as far as they did. They went past so many teams, and yet they still had so many teams to go through. So eventually they do get taken down. NGE are going to take much the same route, and they're probably going to run into a very similar situation. They do pull up at the triple warehouses, which is going to offer some respite for now.
And they all the respite they can get, honestly.
Yeah.
Cerberus, though, Jordan, 2 kills at the moment. 10-point lead to Day Trade, a team that you said probably not expecting to see much more of tonight. So Lolzy, good knockdown onto Teddy. As we go back over towards Icarus and Team Bliss. Bryn with a shotgun in hand. Only one left for our bottom team, and they will go out in last place. They will stay in last place. A lot of work to do for Team Bliss over the next 20 hours or so. They need to respond big time on day 3. Otherwise, it's looking like a terrible tournament for them.
Talk about gauntlet runs. We've seen a couple. Team Bliss tried one. NGE looked like they would go for it. Now it's time for Day Trade to give it a crack, and they're okay. They look to have gotten into the cover of the buildings. I've run into Jay. Jayan's just standing there right where Boochills pulls up, and I mean, that's unfortunate for Day Trade. I think if they might have pulled up a little bit earlier and just got into a building, they could have been okay, but they kept driving. Hasn't worked out. They're out in 15th place, and oh, Zizzy, you have a long swim, my friend.
Yeah, and it's so unfortunate for E-Arena, too, to end their night like this. They're not the only ones that are struggling here, obviously, in this game. We saw Day Trade, they're gone. So a couple of these teams at sort of the top end, you know, even MS Tomburi too, Jordan, from the top 7, struggling in this final game of the night here on Erangel. And that gives good signs for any Cerberus fans out there. 3 kills, 4 alive. Some of the direct competitors going out rather early in this game. Obviously, you've still got Buriram with 4. You've still got SGD with 4, a couple of kills too. So they'll be able to keep touch. But E-Arena, MS Tomburi, and obviously Day Trade not going to be able to capitalize in this final game of the night.
SGD are one of those teams that may be able to capitalize. I do like that ridge that you can play around near the hospital, but it is a little bit risky. Depending on where this circle shift is going to go. Might not be so easy to get off of the ridge once you're on it. GE with a fairly split setup inside of Georgia Pole. Have to be aware of the fact that if they do lose a player, if someone gets knocked here, it'll be, again, very difficult to find the res onto particularly Clories or Simon. It's a very safe spot for Clories to be in, though. He shouldn't be going down there. Swim check. Is he still going?
I'm looking at the map stream, and I'm trying to figure out if he makes it or not. I
don't know if he does.
It's kind of close.
I mean, he's got a good healthy lead on the zone, but
yeah, still a minute 40. I mean, obviously, what doesn't help him is the fact that it was a southern shift. Technically, I mean, it's a water, shifting away from the water. Yeah. But yeah, that obviously didn't play into his favor. But yeah, I don't think he makes it.
Well,
I don't think he makes it.
If he makes it, he will die. So at the end of the day, if he makes it, it doesn't matter. Like whether or not he makes it, really, like where's he going to go? He's going to try and storm the beach.
I'm watching the stream, and he's unfortunately floundering in the water for E-Arena. They will go out most likely in 14th, unless there's another team to go out very, very shortly here in Phase 4. Minute left till Phase 5.
NGE might be in a bit of trouble, depending on what SGD is looking at as they exit the warehouses. They have got a player across under that hill. It's a Young B, but Diane and Neil T do still have to move. Sizzy drowns.
Yep. Young B. Well, if they didn't know where he was, they definitely know now. And really would love to stay on this one, because for SGD, kind of up and down sort of day, maybe a little bit more down than up than they would like for a team contesting at the top. They need to get a big fight win here. Shen had a very good day 1. Hasn't quite been as strong today here on day 2. Leo, I mean, does he even know where he's throwing this nade? Underarm, close, that's not too bad. A little bit though to the left, just misses out on Young B. So only the 3 players for New Generation here. One of which is struggling to get over there. It's Diane who loses out to Icarus, so now just the duo. SGD need to get the 2 kills here. They need the kill points, and Shen finds the down onto Young B, but they can't push over because Icarus is watching.
Yeah, that's the problem with this hill. It's like, yeah, you can play it, but when you're trying to convert kills, you're sort of in the firing line of a bunch of teams. Neil T, he's still keeping himself safe for the moment. We'll go back and have a look at a replay of a breach here from PMA onto Buriram. Did not catch what happened here, but I assume Buriram is able to defend pretty comfortably. They do. They get a bit of assistance from Tycon, actually.
Yeah. A little bit of help from their rivals.
Yeah.
So 4 kills now for SGD, and they needed this. They needed to sort of finish strong to close the night out. 13th, 12th, 7th, a couple of kills smattered around in those games, but just not really a massive performance like we saw in day 1, where they got a 16-kill win, which has pretty much set up their campaign for them. But they're in the top 4, you know, they're thereabouts. They need to basically win, or at least 2nd place. Need to have a big game to close out. They've got a couple of kills, 4 players alive, on the move. Where do they go? Icarus are now moving as well. Maybe onto MS Chombiris. Jalman, the solo, still remaining. Can he get anything? Headshot, knocked out, but can't quite convert it. Bit of help from Asita Jr. as well from Duraton 5. And a beautiful angle that he moves to the window. Might just be able to confirm both of those kills. He got JN. There's another one still on AT, but there's Sophia. There's SGT crashing the same position. Jalman, no health, no chance. Shan, Sophia, Jervis all finding a kill at the same time for SGD. There's 7 kills, and there's hope that they'll finish strong tonight.
That's a really nicely timed push from SGD. They knew they had to get in. They knew the zone was moving away from them, and they had to find somewhere to hole up, and it's perfectly timed. They see the fight ensuing. It's starting to go wrong for the team inside. It's starting to go wrong for the team outside that is breaching. They choose the perfect time to go in. They don't lose anyone on the way there. And now they've got a good solid position, a launching platform for the rest of the game. Evil Patrick gets the knock on a Ninja. That'll be finished off, though, by X-Crosshit. So Deraton 5, happy with that. Your mate Duck Juice, he's in an action movie at the moment, and he's still surviving. He's the main character.
3 kills and still alive, the solo for the Expendables, who are in 8th position. I think if we were to sort of name a position in APAC, 8th is the Expendables. That's where they generally sit. And once again do so, although there's 3 teams, Jordan, on 52 points in the middle portion of this leaderboard, and all of them could have a really big game and probably get into the top 3, top 4. That's how close this lobby is going into day 3 tomorrow. Reminder for those watching, 5 more games to be played tomorrow, same time, to then close out week 1 of 2 weeks of action here for PCS7 APAC. Genius Esports, a team that has been largely in front of the camera's eyes tonight, but not always for the right reasons. They've had some tricky moments. Now, we just see Haisaki's been knocked, and not seeing if that's going to be confirmed, if that's going to be flushed, but what you can see on the map, Jordan, pretty poor position here for Cerberus.
Yeah.
Only the 4 kills. It's not too bad. It's been a quiet night for them, but are they going to get much more?
I mean, you say only the 4 kills, but yeah, I guess in the context of the night, the 4 kills they're getting here are actually quite good, and they are still in the lead, and Day Trader's already eliminated, so those kills are pretty much ensuring that they're going to hold on to first place heading into tomorrow. But another night like tonight is not going to be enough to secure them top 1. Glorious is going to go grab a bike. I wonder where Genius is going to head after this.
Well, they're geniuses. They'll figure it out.
Well, there's really not, like, I mean, yeah, okay. Sure, but maybe there isn't an answer to this problem. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you had the biggest brain in all the lands...
It's just a problem.
Maybe
it's just a problem.
Yeah, there's nothing you could do anyway.
Where does Cerberus go, though? That's a largely open field just to the west of Hospital, which is actually where Duckjuice is located himself. Talk about picking prime real estate. You know, for Cerberus, this seems okay for now, but they, of course, cannot stay here on this hill. Looking down towards Genius Esports. Haisaki knocked down onto Glories. Not sure if they'll get much more from that. Buram, Edie, and Konaxi, Jordan, they've kind of moved close by. You can see them in the minimap, but they're not going to overextend this position. It does, though, make things slightly harder for Cerberus, pushing forward into the circle.
Mass trying to get some taps there onto Zest as well. Cerberus is not a GE fan by the sounds of it. There's another replay for us, and it's Icarus. Oh, this is the initial fight that we saw. This is the one that SGD actually ended up winning. And you can see they come in a little bit late. He who laughs last laughs loudest, Xenox. And it was SGD that ended up laughing.
Certainly did so. Genius Esports have been eliminated, by the way, at the hands of Cerberus, up to 7 kills now. So really at least getting some very valuable points to close out the night, but they've got a rival to still deal with. In fact, 3 of them. They cannot be affording to go out at this point, Cerberus, because SGD, Buram, T5, all still alive, all have 4 players, except Edie's just been knocked by Nan. Don't think he's going to be able to get confirmed, though. They don't have the angle from this kind of distance for Archangel Predator. Question is for Cerberus, do they look to maybe push on this? They've only got the 3 players, so may look to still be rather the defensive than offensive.
Yeah, this is not fun for Buram. That, though, is a great grenade by Nordra to drop Mad Dog, relieve a little bit of that pressure on their backside. Kanaxi, Edie, and Cheeksy happy with that. Patton Pong again. He is having a night and has dealt with FTF. This could be a big game for Teraton 5 if they can find a win here. 2 for the night, that would be. In the meanwhile, Buram slowly picking apart Cerberus. Circle has shifted over the top of Origami Orangutans. Maybe they're going to have their second crack. Could we see another 1 versus 2 from Origami Orangutans and Teraton 5?
Buram pushing up, though, onto this hill of Cerberus. Now, remember, Archangel Predator still kind of have eyes on this position. And, yeah, as those shots did start to ring out from CJ, Buram have just pulled back to a little bit of safety here. They want to get rid of Cerberus. They want to push this and be aggressive. And yeah, Haisaki's gone. Still 2 more alive, though, for Cerberus. And those placement points will start to add up the longer, of course, that they stay alive. 95 points for Cerberus. And a rather poor night overall. Another replay. Oh, my God. Production is loving these tonight. This is Teraton 5 and Pathan Pong, who got rid of Man and got rid of Delta Mix. A nice double kill there for T5, who have had a very, very good night tonight. And we'll finish in the top 5. And there they go, the push onto the duo of Cerberus. It's not looking that great, though. Tycon got 1, Tycon got 2. Buram, a Bury gone. What a play from Tycon and Cerberus. Edge closer to the triple digits of 100 points. Himas, but it's Tycon leading the way. 5 of their 9 kills, and he's not done. He has eyes on Nan.
Yeah, what a find this kid has been, Cerberus. They have bailed themselves out of danger. That should not have been possible. Very, very messy from Buram. A couple of missed sprays, and Cerberus take advantage of it, capitalize and punish, and survive as well. There's a knock onto Nan too, so might just put another one in the back pocket for Cerberus. CJ gonna run into the nade, does just turn around in time. Dangerous territory here for Archangel Predator as SGD now sharks in the water circling. Good shots from CJ onto Sophia. But is it enough to keep him alive? Jervis knows he's somewhere inside that smoke. Big spray comes through. Doesn't want to reload at the wrong time though, and a flash connects as well. CJ might be a one-man army.
Oh, he's completely blinded from above. CJ has played this perfectly from the smoke. Shen's knocked down as well. Bye-bye, SGD. T5 continue to roll on here, now into the top 3, and maybe have eyes on that second place. As Cerberus, they have responded. They have answered. After a slow day 2, they are coming home fast here in the final game of the day, led by their young star in Tycon.
Yeah, well, with that said, it's going to be tough for them to convert this one into a win. They do at least have a little bit of cover to play from. Himas hits a good shot onto Rip. And this is something that Origami Orangutans absolutely cannot afford. You know, they lost players in that clutch scenario late in the game on Miramar, and that's what cost them. They can't afford to lose players again. And Nade, it's a very good one, actually, all things considered. A really great toss. And there's another knock. I mean, this is not good at all for Origami Orangutans, at least. There's shots ringing out in other directions as well as Ranger X now falls to the floor. He'll be picked up by Teraton 5, but this is still a very losable round for Origami Orangutans, even though they have the numbers advantage. Positionally speaking, I think it's Teraton 5 and Cerberus that are actually looking a little bit better.
Would be a massive statement from Cerberus. The sleeping giant has awoken. The final game of day 2. Completely irrelevant, really, for the majority of the day, Jordan. 5th, no kills. 9th, 4 kills. 14, and then 14 with only 1 kill in those 2 games. They were letting that lead slip. It was dwindling, but maybe just re-establishing it to close the night out. Extra's it. Rips his head off, but Kang fell for the trade, courtesy of Ranger X. 2 still up. Flash, successful. 3 versus 2. They make their push. The Orangutans are looking for redemption. They lost to this team once before, but not this time. The Orangutans now to take down the Giants of Cerberus to maybe find the victory that they sought before. Tycon, though, he loses to Akita. Himas in the 1 versus 2, pushing up to Rip, who I think has got that audio cue. He knows what position, what side he's on. Akita heals up. It's a 2 versus 1. Surely, Jordan, they win it this time.
Yep. Rip just trying to play it as slow as possible. Give Akita the time, and finally, it is the time of the Origami Orangutans. A word or two that I never thought I'd be saying on a PUBG broadcast, but there you have it. Origami and Orangutans put it together, and they finally got themselves a win. They probably could have had 2 tonight, but at least they end it well. And it's looking up for the Origami Orangutans, I gotta say. They had a pretty rough day yesterday, but actually today's been pretty good.
Massive, massive day for the Orangutans, leading from down under. They are the top team from OCE right now and playing like it. Good way for them to close the night off. Still, though, hard to look past what was a grandstand finish from Cerberus, Jordan. After a largely quiet day, all things considered, they rose to the occasion on the final match of the night to re-extend the lead that they once had, that had been closed down by the likes of Daytrade. It was 10 points going into that final game. It could have even been a loss of that top position. Not to be. They really rose, and Tycon was a big, big reason for that. What a performance from an individual. What a way to close out the day. And I think for the Orangutans, definitely deserved. They probably felt they should have won the one on Miramar. They got their revenge as well against Theraton 5. What was arguably a very, very fascinating day of PUBG here for APAC.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, it's been a really, really sort of topsy-turvy lobby, hasn't it? We've seen really good stuff from the top end, and then Cerberus kind of quietening down. Teams toward the bottom, teams that you don't really expect to get too much done, like Origami Orangutans, have actually put themselves up into 9th place. So a lot of storylines that kind of go against the grain starting to appear here in PCS7. I also like the fact that the middle of the pack hasn't really fallen too far away from Cerberus. You talk about, obviously, Cerberus being able to put it together in that final round of the day, but let's be real, that was their one good game of the day, and they're still at the top. That's largely by virtue of the massive day they had yesterday. There are sharks in the water circling. Day trade's getting closed. Theraton 5's looking very good. Very consistent day from them today. Another 3rd place for them. 9 kills. You know, they're getting really good numbers through. And SGD as well, they've been a little bit up and down, but they've largely been quite good today. Buriram's been showing some good signs too. So I think there's definitely a lot of teams to be wary of if you're Cerberus.
There's a couple of teams that, you know, really made a bit of a push to try and catch up to Cerberus today, and then a couple of others that unfortunately maybe have just sort of squandered a little bit of a chance. Of course, still so much to play for. We'll go to the match leaderboard, though, for this game in particular, because a fascinating one in that the Orangutans and Cerberus both tying on points. Obviously, Cerberus going big on the kills, but Origami Orangutans getting the chicken dinner. So 18 apiece there. Another massive game from Theraton 5, and rightfully now into the top 3 and giving themselves every chance to qualify for PGC.
Yep, indeed. Very, very good stuff coming through. Interested to see how things do shape up with the leaderboard when we get there, but Nice to see an Aussie on the player of the match, Rain this time, the one to be doing the damage. Nearly 300 from him, 4 kills as well. Really good, solid game out from Rain. And it's funny, you know, we went into that one with the 0 kill leader, I think was Rain from the previous game, and then he pulls off a player of the match. So, hey, maybe that's a nice little turnaround.
And the total leaderboard to close out day 2 of PCS7 APAC, and Cerberus, while they extend that lead once again from 10 points to almost ballooning back out to 30. Let's be honest, you could obviously say it's 26, but 30 sounds a little bit better. The only difference being this time around, all of those teams, I would say on the left-hand side of leaderboard, Jordan, are not really all that far behind. I mean, even MS John technically, realistically about 48 points behind. It's not really all that bad. All things considered, when you've got not only tomorrow, but all of next week. A lot of games still to be played, and Cerberus have shown us that they can be a little bit fallible, that they can have a little bit of a bad patch, and that there are teams that can maybe capitalize on that. You know, so for the day as a whole for Cerberus, they'll probably feel as if that they could have maybe extended their lead to 60 points, something that Daytrade kind of did back in PCS 6.
Yeah, definitely a much bigger day yesterday from Cerberus, but it's not necessarily always about having massive days. It's also about just keeping yourself in the mix, grinding it away. You kind of get the sense that this is going to be a bit of a season which is a little bit more on the grindier side. We're seeing a lot of very, very strong teams coming through, and Cerberus, they're not finding it as easy as what Daytrade did last season. So what they have to ensure now going forward is that they don't have a terrible day. And today was almost a terrible day. They salvaged it toward the end there. And if they can do that every day, they might just be able to hang on for first place. But if they don't, yeah, there's definitely a few teams that are going to be able to catch up to them pretty quick smart.
Well, just quickly, as you're sort of saying about terrible days, what do you make of Team Bliss? Is this now becoming too much of a trend over the first 2 days? Is there just too much of a sample size to suggest that they're just not up for the task this split?
Yeah, I mean, look, 4 or 5 bottom 2 placings. I'm looking at 16, 14, 14, 15, 16. So that's what, 5 out of 10 games they've finished in the bottom 2 placements for, any individual game. It's not a particularly good sign, and actually even to add to that fact, there's a 13th in there as well for them. So if we want to go from that train of thought, 60% of the time they're finishing in the bottom 3 placements for any given round. It's not really good enough. I think they need to do a lot to sort of turn things around. I'm not sure what's gone wrong for them. Obviously, they're a quality squad, but it's not coming together at the moment. So maybe it's a confidence thing. Maybe it's a strategic thing. Who knows? Hopefully they can come back tomorrow stronger and perform to the level that we expect from them.
Just very quickly for you, Jordan, in the old little fantasy league going on at Twire, I have got the jump on you now. A whole 10 points ahead of you. Well, 13 points, I should say. Yeah, Duck Juice being a big factor for that one. So it's always a lot of fun. How can you believe, really, the best player, 10K? I mean, what a ridiculous thing to think about. Only picked by 1% though, so probably not too much of an outlier. Still, big day today. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in and watching. We have a wonderful league playing out here for APAC, for PCS7. We return tomorrow to see whether or not Cerberus, can they continue to extend that league, take that top spot, or will the pack continue to, I guess, keep in touch with them? We'll have to see. We'll see you tomorrow.